Good and fair evening, my friends. Welcome back to another beautiful night in the tavern. I hope that you are all doing quite well. How are we all doing this fine Tuesday afternoon, evening, morning, Wednesday for our friends in the Upside Down? I have white claws in liquor. Good Lord, Aaron, what are you doing? Oh, what shall got going on in here? Well, every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday, we hop on for a little bit and I give you all story time. Tiara. Well, welcome in. And hello, my friends. I see we've got Molly Sue, we've got Frostbeard, we've got Erin, we've got Bear, we've got. Oh, I should probably turn down. Wait, is the music not on? Music is not on. Interesting. Well, then, I'll turn it down now. Uh, we've got Tiara, we've got Bethany. I'm here on a Tuesday for once. We've got Gunnar. Hello, all. Sorry I missed Sunday. It's some internet issues. It's all right, brother. I appreciate you. Aussie boy, hello, hello. We're doing well. We're getting ready for Storytime. Quirt, hello. Good to see you, my friend. Teresa, I think I've noted everyone. You want to get food? Be back in 10-ish minutes. There should be enough time. I usually waffle about for about 10 minutes, so should be good. 10 minutes to an hour, really, is where the sweet spot is. 10 minutes to an hour. Not worried. I'll be at work tomorrow. Gunnar is somewhere around here. Did I not say, well, hello, Gunnar. Good to see you, my friend. Steve McDaniel, hello, welcome in over on the Facebook portal. Now, for all the new folks who drop in, there are multiple portals through which you can enter for Storytime. We have them up on TikTok, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and Kick. Whatever strikes your fancy, you can come on in. You know, Castle, maybe Odin caused Ragnarok with his actions, or maybe his actions are the only reason there were any survivors. Now, I would accept that as a reading if the Volva did not explicitly say that if he continued down his current path, he was going to end up in Ragnarok. Because a lot of what happens in the story, he ends up breeding animosity because of the way he treats other things. Nilu, Sam, good to see you, love. Martin, hello, welcome in. Christy, hello, welcome in. My first time over here, hello there. Well, Jordan, welcome in. For those of you who are new, I am Castle, this is my tavern, and here we talk about myth and lore and tales of yore, and every now and again I read you all a story. You've stumbled through a portal to a tavern at the end of the world, where all stories eventually come to rest. Tonight I am reading to you from A Darkness at Sethanon by Raymond E. Feist. We are near the end, but I promise you it is well worth doing. The young lady was very good. She has a great reading voice. Yes, she does. That is my lovely wife, Una. She is amazing. Justin, hello and welcome in. But sometimes you just can't play nice, especially with beings that want to see you burn anyways. Well, but how many of the beings actually wanted to see him burned? Part of one of the biggest conflicts in the Eddas is that while Loki is continually a troublemaker, he's also continually the punching bag of the Aesir. Like there's a story where they tie a goat to his testicles and then they let the goat ram him in the testicles. Like Loki is continually the punching bag for the Aesir and Vanir. Like he's talked about as like this very powerful being in modern pop culture, but really he's not. He's very much like the footstool of the Aesir and Vanir, and eventually he gets revenge for it. Well, not all the fire giants, because really it's like the few of the Jotun dislike him because of his slaying of Ymir, which him and his brothers initiated that. There's nothing in the sagas that tell us that Ymir was evil, just that he was big and chaotic and possibly loud. Joseph, hello, hello. Good to see you, my friend. Welcome back. That's what he gets for making Sleipnir. Yeah, that nightmare of a thing. Lovely. Yes, you are a blessed man, Castle. Yes, she is, and yes, I am. I'm quite blessed to have the lovely lady, to be sure. Well, yeah, ice giants by what, like the modern precipitation of it. But as far as we know, we only know of like 2 fire giants per se that are prominent in like the main canon of the lore. One of them is one of Loki's parents, his father, and one of them is Surtur. And all we know about Surtur from the primary works is that he doesn't care for Odin, and that he's someday going to cause him trouble. Tara, hello, good to see you. Welcome in. I'm so very glad you could join us. Tyson, welcome in, my friend. But by all meaningful measures, if we read the Eddas, the prose Edda and the poetic Eddas, if we read those stories without any scholarly interpretation, if we just consider the kinds of stories that were told in the time, and we consider the meanings of the words and what is being presented, Odin very much was the linchpin in Ragnarok. And if you look at the people who do survive, none of them survive because of the actions of Odin. They survive because of their own agency. 100%, and like the stories. Well, thank you, Justin. I appreciate that. Calamitous, I didn't even know you still watched my videos, so that's I'm glad you still watch. I don't know if you still enjoy, but I'm glad you still watch. All right, my friends, we're going to get started here in just a moment. Justin, how is your name said how it looks? Yeah, we're gonna run ads here in a minute, and then we're gonna get started. Justin, is your name said Justin Buffalo? Is it, or is there some special way? To be frank, I only recently started watching your videos. Yeah, I was under the impression that you had stopped watching my stuff altogether. That's why I was surprised. Because the last couple of times I'd asked you if you'd seen a video, the answer was no. So I was under the impression that you hadn't been watching for quite some time. So I am I'm glad that you're watching, and I hope that you're at least in some semblance enjoying the story times. I feel guilty. Feel guilty for what, Martin? You don't need to feel guilty for anything. Derek, hello, welcome in. Derek Pelka. Is that, Pelka sounds like a... Is it a Scandinavian last name or Finnish last name? Pelka. Or is it Pelk? I called Mary Beth's Ibis a bin chicken. What? Yes, it's just Justin Buffalo. Alright, good. Because it's a little bit of a unique spelling, so at least I think it is. That's Buffalo. Does Buffalo have an E on it? Yeah, the word Buffalo does it. Yeah, okay. So yeah, the Justin Buffalo's name, it ends with an E instead of just an O. So I was wondering if there was something that changed. German. Okay, well, yeah. So is it said Pelka, or is it said Pelk? How would you say the last name? I was close. Like Scandinavia's Germanic. But obviously it's not the same. But that would be Northern German though, wouldn't it? Maybe I could be wrong. Tara, thank you for the heart me bears over on TikTok. Thank you for the heart me tips to the tavern keeper, always appreciated. There is no E in Buffalo. Yeah, that's what I thought. But I'm staring at Justin's last name, and my brain is going, is there supposed to be an E there? What do I need to expect for Scotland and Ireland? I did send you a message, yes, Joseph? I thought I did. I might have forgotten. Most of all, just expect that a lot of the areas that you've seen in pictures, they're not really there, not really the same anymore. And um, it, Ireland is not as peaceful as it used to be. But if you go out into the country, you'll still find a great number of people and places that will really represent and embody and personify the beauty and nature of Ireland. As far as the story times go, I just don't care for the end of the Harry Potter books. The last three books very much seemed like J.K. beating Harry. I agree with that, Calamitous. That's why I never read the seventh book and I didn't watch either of the seventh movies. Since I found this site, I've definitely been enjoying it. Laird, I'm glad. I'm glad. What is Bin Chicken? I only know them from Bluey. Apparently it's an Australian thing. Martin says Palki. Palki. I never would have guessed that. I never would have, because with Germanic and Scandinavian with that E, you don't usually get the E, long E on the back of it. That's interesting. Beautiful. Well, welcome in, Derek. Are you actually from? I sent you a message about weird on Messenger. Please read when you get it. Yeah, absolutely. I get about 100 messages a day. I try to get through them on the weekend. So if I don't get to you soon, I apologize. I try to go through and get to everything by the weekends. I never really got hooked by the magician books. Yeah, I probably wouldn't have read them if we hadn't voted for them for this. So I need the countryside. Well, yeah, and I would say that that's really true of any any European country. The cities are just going to be sort of typical, and usually they're kind of dirty, except for in the tourist areas. I would recommend going to the countryside if you really want to experience like the classical cultures of places. Ireland used to be peaceful well, there was a time. When I was growing up, after the Troubles, when I was growing up, it was peaceful for about 10 years. Shay, hello and welcome in. Good to see you. Canadian, by the way. Well, welcome in. We have quite a few, what do we call the Canadians? We call the Canadians hosers. We have quite a few Canadians in here. Sam, who is over there, Samantha, she's Canadian. Then we've got Matty, who is also a resident Canadian. Did you like the Aussie version of Cannibal the musical? I haven't seen it. Did you send it to me, Martin? The lady and I've been swamped with work all week. I've barely checked my messages this week. Steve McDaniel says, my plans of sailing to Ireland ended today. My sailing yacht was stolen yesterday. That's dreadful, Steve. How did somebody steal a yacht? Now, was it stolen, or was it government stolen? Not that there's a difference, I'm just curious. My last name has an E on the end. The Buffalo does not. Yeah, and that's why I wanted to make sure, because I was like, I might just be misremembering how to spell Buffalo. Look, sometimes I forget, but Canucks, all right. See, because I call most of my Canadian friends hosers, but Canucks makes sense. Oh, that wasn't meant literally. Thoth is also the Egyptian ibis-headed god of writing, which only goes to show that the bird is the word. Thank you for that, Bear. I appreciate the pun. So I need solidarity for boycotting Deathly Hollows. Yeah, if it hadn't been voted on for Storytime, I never would have read Deathly Hollows. I want to see through my ancestors' eyes. It's a noble thing to do. And I've been telling people a lot recently who want to go and visit Ireland, if you're going to go soon, because a lot of the countryside is disappearing. So if you want to go, you should go within the next couple of years. Yeah, that's what Steve was saying over on the Facebook portal. He's saying somebody stole his boat. I call Ken a Canuck all the time. I did, sir. I'll check it out, Martin. Did you send it to me in a message, or is it something you tagged me in? Because I'll go and watch it. I get so many notifications, guys. I promise, if for any of you who have messaged me, I'm not ignoring you. The lady and I get over 1,000 comments in a month, sometimes as much as 4,000, and I get close to 100 messages a week. I try to get to them all, but we also put out short stories every day. We're writing books for the tavern, and we do 3 of these live story times a week, and we're now doing long story times every week for long videos every week. So I try to keep up with everything. There's just a lot, and occasionally I fall behind. So you'll have to forgive me. Okay, Martin, I'll go and I'll give it a look then, my friend. I appreciate you. Toss Life, hello! Welcome in, good to see you. Black Knight, good to see you as well. If anyone who wants to help to be a guide, or help, I'll just have a backpack and a cot kind of thing. Unfortunately, I'm not on speaking terms with any of my family, Joseph, or I would send you to one of them, but if I send you to one of them right now, that would make your stay probably less enjoyable. They pulled it off anchor and was seen sailing towards Jamaica. The Coast Guard is searching. That's incredible. See, where are you from, Steve? That was even possible. That's insane. Why is the countryside disappearing? There's a lot of industrialization and deforestation, and basically the government is destroying a lot of the Irish and English countryside. So there's just not as much of that beautiful open countryside as there used to be. Shame. Tosa Oklahoma here. Really enjoy your content. Very glad that you are carrying the torch of our heritage and culture. Well, thank you, Daniel. I appreciate you for that. And again, for all of the new folks, I'm Castle. This is our tavern, and here we talk about myth and lore and tales of yore. And every now and again, I read you a story. Tonight we are reading from Raymond E. Feist's Darkness at Sethanon, and we do a little bit of discussion as well. So it's not just a strict reading. When I read to you all, we do a little bit of reading, and then we talk about storytelling. But they probably already are. I will fly to Ireland this summer. I want to learn more of my family. That's good, Steve. And again, any of you who want to visit Ireland, I would just beseech you, go into the countryside, because there's just not, the cities are very British. Like, even if you go to Belfast, if you go to Dublin, even if you go to Cork proper, they feel very British. They don't feel like what Ireland feels like to me. And I can't really explain it. But go to the countryside, like go to the Cliffs of Moher, but don't go to the touristy part of the Cliffs of Moher. Thank you, Frost. I'm gonna let the ads run over on Twitch, so we don't need to snooze them. 5 minutes, we're gonna have ads run. After the ads are done, then we're gonna do some reading. Like go to the Wicklow Valley. Wicklow Valley is beautiful. Go and see the Boyne. Go and see Connemara. Like, go to the places that are in the countryside. Like, go look at Irish songs. Go look at Irish songs, and any of the songs that you see that are sung with any sort of longing, go to those areas of Ireland. Yeah, absolutely go to County Cork. You have to go to Cork. Cork is the proper capital of Ireland. Any Irishman will tell you. Any Irishman who isn't a traitor to the Brits. I'll tell you, Cork is proper. That's the proper capital of Ireland. I built a cabin on a lake in Tennessee. See, Tennessee is really beautiful too. The lady and I, we live out in the US, but we live on the West Coast, and it's hot as hell out here. Go to Nevada and tell Michael O'Hare he still owes me $20, says Martin. I need peace. Is there any ancestry things to look at? I know there are things only accessible in Scotland. You can go to the Records Hall in Northern Ireland. That's where you're going to get most of the family records. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. Yeah, the Tennessee mountains are gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. Well, and that's what you go out into Cork and Connemara, and you go down to Limerick. Limerick has a lot of the old farms. You can go up to Ossory. Ossory, I don't know if there is still a lot of farmland in Ossory, but there used to be a lot of farmland in Ossory. And a lot of farms out in Donegal. So just look for the places that are sung about longingly in Irish music. And those are the places that you want to go. Like, look up proper Irish songs and look up where, like, the ones that are sung about with longing. And those are the places that you'll want to go visit, because those are the places where a lot of the old culture is still living. So that would be my recommendation. And again, you don't take my word 100% for it. I haven't lived on the Isle in 20 years, more than 20 years. So, but that's what most folk who I know who live there would tell you the same thing. Again, the ones that aren't British. Stop that. Cassie, hello, it's good to see you. What's County Clare's? There are no not pretty places here. Let me see. Because Clare is known for, I believe, Clare is like down. I think it's known for its cliffs and its forests. Let's see. Yeah, see, this is oh, it's gonna be all greened out, but yeah. So this is the kind, like, Clare is absolutely gorgeous, and you get a lot of like really pretty lakes and cliff views, and there are some really pretty forests on the inland. Absolutely stunning. There aren't a whole lot of ugly places in Ireland, but a lot of them have become industrialized and over inhabited. So ask for the records hall for ancestry. I feel like no, there is a records hall in Northern Ireland that is where what is left, because sometimes, like, I don't remember if it happened in the 1920s or if it happened in 1906. My brain always gets the dates mixed up. But there was a fire at the primary records hall in Ireland, and a lot of the family histories were lost. That's why it's so hard to track genealogies in Ireland. But what is left is in the records hall in Northern Ireland. Oh, if you, yeah, we're just now running ads on Twitch, and then we're gonna start story time, Bethany. So you're back just in time. There's a round tower. They have funny ways of trying to cover up some of Ireland's ancient history by saying it was wrong, or that something churchy was, or something churchy, but it was ancient Celts. Yeah, there's a lot of it gets blamed on the church, but in reality, a lot of it was like British and Spanish kings that did it. So it wasn't necessarily the church directly, but it was the British and Spanish kings using the authority of the church to do it. So it's a messy thing. I talk about it a lot in different stories I tell. That there's an important nuance to it that gets glossed over in a lot of things. Sorry guys, I sent them off on a tangent again. That's all right, Martin. We have to wait till the ads are done anyhow. YouTube is behind yet again. Yeah, it is. YouTube always has a lag. I could not tell you why, but YouTube is always behind by about 60 seconds. So if you're watching through the YouTube portal, you're going to be behind by about 60 seconds. I'm not ignoring you. That is the delay that for some reason is just naturally built into YouTube. I live in... Is it North Carolina, Newport Frames? Here, countryside, I see pictures of Ireland, looks beautiful. Yeah, Ireland just in general, Ireland and Scotland and Wales and Cornwall, like most of the non-inhabited parts of Western Europe are really pretty. But the inhabited parts tend to be really gross. Don't we all love his tangents, though? Apparently some of you do, because you stick around, Cassie. Most people hear a lunatic man of my size talking and they'd go the other way. They'd take a quick right. That's life, thank you for the heart me over on TikTok. Tips to the Tavern Keeper, always appreciated. We should sacrifice Matty to the chair to get rid of the goblins. But then we would miss Matty, though. Government's using religion as a scapegoat? Yeah, I know, it's almost like that's been happening for all of history. Killam, hello, welcome in over on the Facebook portal. Ireland, we have little, like, 3 dots. that pop up, but I was wondering, Scottish as well, when is the exact exchange over 1308? I understand is when the UK formed, but I'm trying to understand if my family took part in Christianity or if they wanted paganism. So this is something that is broadly and I think intentionally misunderstood. The vast majority of Ireland and Scotland willingly, and same thing with Scandinavia, willingly converted to paganism. I mean, to Christianity. From paganism to Christianity, because a lot of the early missionaries who came into Ireland and Scotland, they were not like overly funded or overly backed by the crown. They were not overly endorsed by the crown, and they didn't have a whole lot of power or influence. Literally, these missionaries like St. Patrick, like St. Brede, a lot of these individuals who came into these countries, they came in and lived alongside the locals, and they slowly would evangelize to the locals and say, "Hey, look, this is what you're currently doing." And there were a lot of like harmful practices that took place, and that's not to say the church never did anything harmful. There's plenty of instances. The Reconquista with the Spanish church, the Inquisition, lots of things the church did wrong. So the church is not innocent of wrongdoing, but in a lot of places in Ireland, like they would sacrifice people in the bogs. They would drown children. They would, there were a bunch of different things, and it wasn't super common, but these were practices that were not necessarily seen as universally bad. And so you would get these these monks who would come in. They'd live alongside the chieftains and the people, and a lot of the people would just willingly take under this new belief because religion in pagan countries was not something that people were like mega attached to because there was no dogma or doctrine behind it. A lot of it was just like, oh, we believe that there is a spirit in the forest because we leave food on the edge of the forest and it disappears. And if somebody goes into the forest, the chances of them coming out alive is very low. So these were folk beliefs that fomented as spiritualism in a lot of ways, and you don't really get heavily structured religions in these pagan cultures unless they're centered around a person. Like you have the Uppsala temple in Sweden, where there were a lot of animal sacrifices, there were some human sacrifices, but that was centered around a couple of kings, a couple of chieftains, rather than being centered around like a religious point. So this is one of those things that is widely misunderstood in history. It wasn't really until the mid 1400s to the mid 1700s that forced conversions happened. And it was in a time when there was a lot of war going on, and it was a time when war started being an international thing. It used to be you only ever warred with your neighbors, but then it got to a point where you were warring with people who were countries away. So as those wars happened, forced conversions happened under Islam and under Judaism and under Christianity, and even in certain pagan cultures, if you didn't believe in their particular theistic group, you would either be killed or outcast. This became very common in like the 14 to 1700s. So history is usually like really flattened out when you read it in a book, and this nuance all gets lost. It all just ends up going away. They ran out of mushrooms and lost the way. They didn't have enough reindeer pee to drink. That was part of the problem. I know that the McDougalls were Norse, but at some point it was changed over. Yeah, and again, like, you had kings like Rollo and Canute the Great, who mandated by law the celebration of, like, certain Christian things. A lot of that was more logistical than it was religious. And that's not to say that none of it was religious. That's not to say that there wasn't anything religious about it. But there was a very smooth and it took hundreds of years for the Celtic and Scandinavian and European pagans in general to shift over, and most of it was very natural. Like, we like to point and say, like, Christianity deleted all of these things and was very bad, and in some instances that's true, but it's painted with a much broader brush than is appropriate, and it usually sweeps over the beautiful nuance of how adaptable and how just natural it is for people to pick up new things. One of the examples I like to give is that when Christianity made it into Finland, um, a lot of Finnish folk, there was a large segment of Finnish folk that pretty much right away were just like, oh, another god, another spirit. Yeah, we'll just take that in because we have all of these other great spirits and gods that we already care about. So, and they worshipped Jesus and Mary as a god for like over 100 years before they became like a predominantly Christian society. So it's one of those things where history and the extreme, there has to be this extreme view of one side or a dogma or another thing, ends up flattening out all of these really beautiful nuances of human history. And I hate that. I absolutely hate. I would much prefer we tell the stories how they are, because there's so much more we can learn from that than there is the other way around. Let's see. I'm sorry, guys. I was rambling there. I noticed the absorption like Yule and Christmas. Yeah, and what a lot of people will be like, oh, well, Christmas stole all these things from Yule, or you stole these things. Christmas and Yule developed entirely separately, but in the areas where Yule was a cultural celebration, not a religious one, and where Christmas was a religious celebration, they just ended up being celebrated alongside one another. And so over time, the traditions of one and the other, it just kind of became the same celebration in those areas. And then when those people, like the Scots and the Scandinavians and the Irish, when they came overseas, they brought those traditions with them to the United States, and it became a whole new tradition unto itself. I've done a bunch of story times about this, but I know they don't really get seen all that much. Reindeer Pier, I guess some subjects here are just kind of interesting. I made a video about it, Task Life. It's the Siberian shamans used to drink the pee of reindeers in the snow after they'd eaten magic mushrooms. Let's see. I honestly believe religion is a geographical belief. People started invading others and caused it all to be mixed up, fit kings' agendas. I know my ancestors best I can. Well, and one of the things that modern scholarship does is it speaks with a lot of absolutism that really just sort of skews the reality of things. I think a lot of the priests and people that are the Celtic religion, they were murdered, they were killed, and the people had no shamans. Sometimes, again, like this is something that is really broadly overblown in the way that history is presented. These things did happen, but they weren't the rule. They were more the sort of extreme exception, which is why history talks about them. But it's like witch burnings, right? Like when you talk to most people about witch burnings, you would think that millions and millions of people had been burned because of witchcraft. And you would think that it was predominantly women. But when you look at the reality, it was about 50,000 people over about 300 or 400 years. And while that's still a lot, that's way too much, that's a lot, but it's not millions. And about half, it's like something like 44-45% were men, a small portion of them were children, and then the rest were women. And it's this weird conversation where it's used as like a dogmatic sort of argument. But the reality is most of the time, these things were not even based around religion. Like, there were whole secular courts that convicted people of witchcraft. And in America for the Salem witch trials, they were Puritans, and it was based off of the testimony of 3 teenage girls that the vast majority of the people who were executed were executed. So it's one of those things where it's like you have to really look at the nuance teaches so much more than the hyperbolic story does. I told someone that a few years ago, and she refused to believe me. It was St. Patrick's Day. I'm so far into the conversation, I forgot where I was. Molly, if you restate, I can address that. Was there any chance that they were bribed by pubs? They are the UK social area. It's entirely possible, Corey. It's entirely possible. That is the social club of the US. The druid converted to preserve their knowledge. They had to hide or die. A lot of druids actually sort of and again, like, I can't say with any level of certainty that it was willingly, but there are a lot of druids and a lot of, like, pagan folk who became scribes because it afforded them literacy. Some of the highest literacy rates in all of the medieval era, like even pre-medieval era, came from Christian scribes because they were the ones who were recording everything. Like, after the fall of Greece and Rome, it was primarily religious scribes who wrote everything down. I meant to say the county farm, sorry. Oh, that's alright, Justin. Merchants sold these things that if you hung it one way, it was a hammer, and the other way, it was a cross. Yeah, that was something that became very common in Scandinavia and in some parts of Scotland. They liked to fly with the reindeer. Yes, they did. Molly, yes, they did. Always fun. Oh, Santana, hello, I didn't see you drop in, my friend. I've been using some of your videos for inspiration for my D&D campaign. Well, that's flattering, Black Swordsman. I thank you for that. I'm glad that I can inspire some storytelling. Please just ask. Oh, okay. All right. You've got it. I don't know. I didn't know you had the Norse Gaelic stories. Can you send them? I seek what's lost. My family is primarily Norse Gaelic. Like, my grandfather's family is Norse Gaelic from Southern Ireland. And the stories that, like, my grandfather has huge stores of stories that were kept by our family and recorded by our family. And some of them are different from what mainline stories are, and some of them are more complete versions of the oral traditions kept alive today. I don't ever profess that they are accurate or perfect, because I have no way of knowing that. But I've read a lot of them, well, I've read all of them myself, and I find them to be credible, but that's just an anecdote. I'm never going to ask anybody to believe that my anecdote is evidence. Not just magic mushrooms, but the really extra magical mushrooms that would kill people if they consumed them directly. Right, Calaverus? Right. The magic word waffles. I wish Yule and Christmas hadn't been so commercialized. I taught my kids this season is about family and friends, community, not about material items, even though we do give gifts. I have always preferred the way that my family celebrates it, and obviously I'm going to prefer the way my family celebrates it. But we celebrate Samhain, the end of the season, and Yuletide as one long season that are linked together. During Samhain, we write down what are called kilnings, which is things that we will need to survive the winter. And then during Yuletide festival, we will travel to visit family throughout Yuletide. Sometimes we'll have a large feast festival where everyone comes in, and then we give gifts that are needed. So, like, let's say you're like, oh well, I have two kids who are going to school. Back in the day it would have been writing paper and pencils. Nowadays it would be we could really use a new, like, school laptop, or we could use money for their books or whatever it is, right? And you write down things you actually need, and it's a very, like, good faith honor system sort of thing. And then anyone in the family who's had excess then purchases those gifts, and that's how we do Christmas and Yuletide. Castle, I sent you a DM on Discord. All right, brother, I'll take a look at it. Is it something you need me to look at right now? About how Christianity came to Ireland and how many folks actually adopted those traditions. Oh, right. Let me see. So he said, I told someone that a few years ago and they refused to believe. Yeah, a lot of people like to look at like St. Patrick as though he was some sort of genocidal maniac. He had no military. St. Patrick had no military power. So the idea that he was out there killing anybody is ridiculous, because there's no historical evidence to suggest that. And the whole he drove the snakes out of Ireland, that myth, that story, did not crop up until hundreds of years after he died. So that was literal church propaganda. That was literal. Him driving the snakes out of Ireland was like a little church-like mythos story about St. Patrick. Okay. Acknowledge Zeus is the god. I don't dabble in any sort of religion, my friend. You're welcome to believe whatever you want. I don't talk about those sorts of things here. Apparently, the largest portion of my genetics is Scottish on my mother's side. Her DNA was 88% Scot. Not quite sure how that worked with my maternal grandfather having the surname Hansen. That is interesting. Playing starter roulette. My 8th great grandma was Susanna Martin, one of the first 5 witches hung in the Salem witch trials. Looking into the historical records, I found a possible reason for her accusation was the neighbor wanted her land and she was widowed. Yeah, and this is how most of these things happened. Like, it was usually very affluent individuals who backed the accusations so that they could gain land, so that they could gain political favor. Something like 85% of the werewolf hunts and the witch hunts that you can find were driven by these things. So again, this is why I hate that history gets flattened out into these sort of like two-dimensional good guy, bad guy sort of narratives, because the real stories are so much more beneficial to us as a species, and we often just bollocks them off and don't bother reading them at all. Now, it'll bring down the mood, look at it after stream. If it's important, I can read it now, because that makes me feel like I should read it now. Molly Sue says exactly, he stood on the rock and just kept talking. Yeah. Erin, hello! Good evening, dear storyteller from the beautiful Portland, Oregon. We're very glad to have you in. It's good to see you, other Erin, Facebook Erin, because we have Erin over on Twitch as well. If they are credible, doesn't matter. I'm looking for more of our history. I'll find the truth. I would just like the stuff to keep going as well. Maybe that's what's lost for us. You could recover. I could keep... Yeah, I mean, I do have... If you want something just to start with, Joseph, I'm not sure if I've ever brought this up to you, but my wife and I put together this as a little handbook for how my family celebrates the festivals of the year. It also includes a little bit of the regular history. You can get the soft touch book through Amazon. We made it as cheap as they would let us, but if you don't want to spend, I think it's like $8, $8 or $9. If you don't want to spend it, I think it's $4 for the ebook. If you just want that, and any questions you have, you can always send me, and that's 100% free. You can always ask me a question, and I'll answer whatever you have for free, of course. Thank you to Una. Quick message, says Matty. Thank you, Bear. I appreciate you, my friend. Good evening, my friend. I haven't mentioned this before, but my heritage is from Sweden, Ireland, Scotland, Danish, and English. Whew, lot of battling going on in there, Ryan. See, I'm a bit of a mutt too. I grew up in Ireland with my family who are pretty much pure-blooded Irish and Scandinavian from Norway. But, yeah, absolutely. The link is in my beacons, Joseph, or I can send it to you after Storytime is done. Katie K, hello! It's been too long. Glad to be back. It's good to see you. Yep, she's sitting right across from me now, being as lovely as ever. Bergie says, philosopher. Oh, you put posh. You're not referring to me as a philosopher. Their Facebook Erin, and usually asleep Erin, yes. The absolutely unhinged Erin. Yeah, I'll send you a link afterwards. It's not exhaustive, I will say. This is really just it's a starter's guide. It's got some recipes from my family in the back of stuff that I grew up eating. And it's got little stories and links to folklore and links to some of the mysticism. I tried not to make it because my family doesn't celebrate any of these things religiously. All of it we celebrate culturally. So I tried to include some of the more spiritual sides of it that we don't necessarily recognize as spiritual, just so that the people who are interested in that could have it. And then the vast majority of it is about the traditions and what was done. We're planning on releasing a larger version of it at some point, but people were asking for it a few years back, and we just put it together as quickly as we could, and the wife formatted it, we put it out. Darcy said, you and your merry band of Netzians are amazing. I don't need a story, just time to sit and listen. The folks in the tavern are absolutely ludicrous. You say you don't dabble in religion, but then you talk about Odin, the father of all, doesn't make sense. I talk about the historical stories, Bubba. I talk about historical stories. I'm not a priest, I'm not a guru, I'm not here to sell you anything or convince you of anything. I talk about the stories as they exist. I talk about words, I talk about history, I talk about tradition, I don't really give a damn about religion. Religion and dogmas are things that people come up with to make sense of something they want to believe, and you're welcome to do that. But I leave religion, dogma, doctrine, drama, all that stays at the door in the tavern. You're welcome to believe whatever you like. I have no stance in that at all. I tell stories about Odin. I tell stories about Cuchulainn. I tell stories about Jesus Christ. I tell stories about the Buddha. I tell stories about Sun Wukong. I am a storyteller. I keep stories from all over the world, and I tell them because the stories have timeless truths in them, and it is a storyteller's job to convey them. I have no stock in what any of you believe. You are all welcome to whatever religions, dogmas, creeds, whatever you want to believe. My only job is to convey the stories of histories to all of you as accurately and as non-biasedly as is possible for a human being to do. That is a storyteller's conscript, and that is what I try to do. I have no stock in what you believe. You're welcome to believe whatever you like. There are people of all. I have a million different flavors of pagan in here. There are some Christians in here. There are some atheists in here. There are people of all different belief systems in here. I don't care what you believe, as long as you respect the stories. That is the only rule for the tavern. Respect that the stories are meant to stand on their own, that stories do not have dogma or doctrine behind them. They just have as much truth as can be conveyed. That's all. And I hope that didn't come off as aggressive, because I didn't mean it to be. I just got a little bit impassioned there. Let us hear your wisdom about on good and evil. I don't know that I have any wisdom there. I guess people were hungry for waffles, and apparently, I need to get to reading, folks. Bear is doing his double duties, flogging merch. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Speaking of which, our merchandise, the adventurer's gear is still on sale because we accidentally paid for 2 months of the special shipping for it. So anybody who still wants to get some tavern adventurer's gear, you can find it over on the tavern shop. Dad's side is something like 90% Irish and 10% Scottish that I'm aware of. Mom's side is all of Europe, maybe some Native American, a few other things. But that comes from an aunt who is a bit out there. Well, that makes sense. We're working on the recipe book. I'm actually in the process of putting that together. Bear. Perfectly put, says Steve, your stories teach. And I hope that they do, because they're not mine. They are not my stories. I was gifted them by my family's tradition, and I pass them on to all of you. I was gifted them by my education. They're not mine. I just pass them along. And I appreciate all of you who show so much love to it. And I'm glad that you guys enjoy them. History ties all life and creation. Exactly, Steve. Precisely that. It is very important for storytellers, because what you'll get a lot online, especially, is storytellers who have a bias and who want to convince you of something. I'm not trying to convince you of anything except for the truth of the story. I want you to be able to look at the story in all of the beautiful nuance and detail that matter, and then come to your own conclusion. If you want to look at the story of Odin and think, wow, he was a brilliant warrior, he was this beautiful seeker of knowledge, that's true. That's an appropriate message to take from the story of Odin. If you want to look at it and go, oh, he was a fool, and he was full of hubris and arrogance, that's also true. That's a part of the story. Both of those things are the lessons that you can get from that story. But if you paint it in this picture of Odin is this infallible god who I believe in and worship, and then you never read the actual stories, there's no lesson in that, because you've said that he can never have any flaws. So not only can he only ever be right, there's no lesson to learn from somebody who can only ever be right, that you can't speak to directly. And some people say that they can speak to gods. Again, I take what your subjective philosophical, religious, and theological experiences, those are yours. You're welcome to have them. I'm not here to tell you whether you do or do not have them. But I have not experienced your perspective, and I can't just take your word for a subjective experience that cannot be verified. You're allowed to have it, but that's not my job as a storyteller to tell you whether you're right or wrong. I wish they would bring back Aesop's Fables in school. I was reading them in the 4th grade. I was thinking about doing a series on Aesop's Fables, but I don't know if people would care about them. That is interesting. History of everythings and stories. Thank you for talking, like learning, and who. I do my best, Justin. I do my best. The tavern is now a Waffle House, but no fighting. Another thing I thought is the storybook of for children kind of thing, but Norse Gaelic Our Stories. Joseph, we're in the process of doing a children's series that is sort of like that. It's a little bit less structured than what I'm sure some folk would like, but we want to teach our family's traditions through children's stories, so we're working on something like that. It's like the tavern, all walks of life pass through, yeah, and all folk are welcome here as long as they respect the rules of the tavern. I don't really care who comes in here. If you respect the rules of the tavern, you're welcome. And you respect the other tavern folk is the important thing. And never to change the stories unless it's more for understanding. Well, and even then, like, you can create new stories for understanding. Don't change the old ones for it. Respect the old stories by letting, because most old stories are old because they have timeless truths in them. So respect those timeless truths and don't feel like you need to improve upon it. Yes, an actual storybook, but structured for families, Joseph. Just in case no one has seen it, I left a couple of recommendations for decent to watch on Netflix. They're in the common room. Thank you, Frost. I appreciate you. Yeah, greetings to everybody who's come in. I'm gonna get reading right now. Somebody asked about reading. We're gonna do that here. Trolls 2, I enjoyed. Oh yeah, I saw that. Your stories and tales of history allow people to open their minds and draw their own conclusions, which is how it should be. It is not my job to tell you what to think. It is my job to give you the information and maybe give you some guide on how to think for yourself. But it's never my job to tell you what to think. Yeah, I'm going to start reading. I was Bethany who asked. I'm going to start reading right now, Bethany. I just got off on this long thing. Yeah. I'll have my hash browns covered in dice chunks, chunked cap and country, please. I loved Aesop's Fables. I do too. I have an old copy of it sitting right over there on the bookshelf. I am a believer in andonitology. I have no idea what that is, Herring. Do you know what andonitology is, Lovey? I don't know what that is. I've never. Obviously, it's the study of something, but I have no idea what it is the study of. I've never heard that word before. Let's see what the Googs says. The Book of Andonitology. A religion named after and founded by King Adonis, the first, which empowers, enlightens, and Calphia again. Oh, it's Herring, I should have known you weren't serious. But I guess alright, fair enough. Anybody who wants to know, you can go look it up. I'm not going to say that on stream. Oh, good lord. Yeah, I'll put it in the broad chat so everybody who can go and look it up. Nicholas, hello, welcome in. All right, we're gonna get to story time. What a troll you are. Herring just coming in here and throwing everything up into a tizzy. All right, my friends, for any of you who have been in here for the last half an hour, this is not normally what we do during story time. I mean, I guess it is kind of normally what we do during story time. But generally, during these story times, we reread stories. So, we are in A Darkness at Sethanon by Raymond E. Feist. We are almost done. I think we really only have, let's see, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We only have 5 chapters left. That means we only have 5 storytelling sessions with this particular book, which is not a lot. Josh Squall says, I just wanted to say thanks. Your videos help with my anxiety. Wishing you success in all you do, brother. Well, Josh, I'm glad. The tavern is a place of peace for a lot of folks, which is strange because I'm very loud. So I don't know how any of you find peace in here with me, but I'm glad that you enjoy, my friend, and you'll always be welcome in the tavern for a story. So thank you for coming in and sharing the love. I'm not a troll, I'm an ogre. I have layers like an onion. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. A lot of folks over on Twitch. All right, so before we get started, I'm gonna get reading right now. But before we get started, yes, we have 5 portals open. You can come in through TikTok, Twitch, YouTube, Kick, or Facebook. The 2 most active chats for if you want to like socialize with folk in the tavern is over on Twitch and on Facebook. Twitch and Facebook have the most active rolling of folk. You could curiously ASMR. A lot of folk have asked the lady and I to do ASMR. I don't even know what we would do if we did. It's literally a religion you can get behind, Henry. Literally a religion you can get behind. All right. Thank you, Santana, for the drink, my friend. I appreciate you. You lot are incorrigible. Like-minded individuals can bring calming energy, so to speak, and I get what he's saying. Could you tell stories about Zeus? Would like to hear your stories about Zeus. I certainly can, Bubba. I do on occasion do Greek stories. The vast majority of the tavern audience, they prefer Celtic and Scandinavian, which is what my heritage is. But I do occasionally tell Greek and Roman stories. I tell Asian stories. I tell Mesopotamian stories. We tell Polynesian stories. I try to tell stories from all over the world, but in order to please the algorithm gods, the modern gods of the 21st century, I have to stick to what my the primary patrons want. But I vary it up. I do something unique once a week. So if you have a particular story you'd like to hear, you can always request it, and I usually get in there at least once a week with folk. Derek AD, thank you for the follow over on TikTok, my friend. You've marked this on the map. You should be able to find your way back the next time you seek a story. Oh, Castle, the double meaning. Yeah. You've been hanging out with me for 4 years, and you're just now realizing this. Clearly, well, you I knew, Calamitous. I try to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. You you lost the benefit of the doubt. Well, we've known each other for what, 4 years? You lost the benefit of the doubt 3 years, 11 months ago. Yes, they do. Is it Warbaggle? Warbaggle? Yes. They all stay up as VODs on both YouTube and over on Twitch. Thank you, appreciate you. Of course, Bubba, my pleasure. All right, everybody, settle down, sit, relax, fill your tankards, fill your glasses. We are on chapter 16 of A Darkness at Sethanon. Okay, so yeah, you lost it 4 years, 9 months ago. All right. Here we go. Chapter 16 of A Darkness at Sethanon. Creation. Macross opened his eyes. Ooh, oh boy. I'm a bagel of war. That's fascinating. Okay, so we're back with Macross, Thomas, and Pug. So this story, for those of you who are new, I'm going to give you a real quick. Right now, there's a war going on with this sort of outer god figure who really, really wants the prince of this world to be dead so that he can take over. And then the second group that we're following is a magician named Pug, his friend Tomas, who is a reincarnated dragon lord, and a ancient magician named Macross. And they found Macross in this sort of like weird other dimension, and they got trapped. And we've been away from them for 3 chapters. We're now back with them. So actually, Bethany, you're gonna be like right back where you left off. I think the last time you were in was when we were with Pug and Tomas. All right, let's go. Chapter 16, Creation. Macross opened his eyes. The sorcerer had entered a trance within minutes of discovering that they were in the time trap, and had been motionless since. After watching him for several hours, Pug and Tomas had grown bored and turned their attention to other matters. They had tried to discover all they could about the garden, but it was a mixture of alien plant and animal life, much of what they saw was difficult to understand. After what seemed days of exploration, the sorcerer hadn't stirred, and they had resigned themselves to waiting. I think I've thought of a solution, Macross said, stretching. How long have I been in a trance? Sorry, TikTok's trying to boot us off. There we go. Pug said, hang on. Tomas, who sat nearby on a large rock, said, I estimate about a week. Pug moved from where he had been observing at Rayath's side and said, or could be more, it's hard to tell in here. Macross blinked and stood up. Moving through time, backwards, does make it somewhat difficult, somewhat academic, I'll admit. But I had no idea I'd been contemplating so long. Pug said, you haven't given us much idea of what is going on here. I tried several things to discover what is occurring about us, but I've only gained a small notion of how this time trap works. What have you learned about the time trap? Pug's brow furrowed. It appears the spell was designed to reverse time in a field about us. As long as we're in that field, we are subject to its effects and cannot change it. We're carried along with a garden, moving at a leisurely pace backward through the time stream. Frustration showed clearly in his tone. Macross, we've plenty of fruit and nuts, but Rayath is hungry. She has managed to get by on some of the small game around here, and even has managed to eat some nuts, but she can't go on this way much longer. Within a short time, we'll have hunted out the game, and then she'll begin to starve. Macross looked over to where the golden dragon lay, in a doze to conserve energy. Well, we must get out of here then, by all means. How? Said Tomas. It will be difficult, but I suspect you two will be up to it. He managed to smile, returning to something of the confidence that exuded when both had known him before. Any trap has some weaknesses. Even something as simple as a rock dropped from above has a flawed design. It can miss, and I think I found the flaw in this trap. Charlie says, what is the name of this book? This book is called A Darkness at Sethanon by Raymond D. Feist. It is floating here above my head. And it should be, it's not in the title over on TikTok, but it is everywhere else. Macross is sort of ambivalent. He's sort of on Pug's side, but he seems to be on his own side, keeping time and history sort of in balance, Bethany. Every time you mention Macross, it makes me think of the first season of Robotech. Oh, good lord, Calamitous, you're revealing your age, my friend. Alright, where was I? Ace, hello, my friend. I'm doing quite well. I hope you're doing well. We've literally just started. We're only a page in, so come on in. Grab your seat. Come in from the cold or the heat, wherever you happen to be. Pug said, it would prove refreshing. I've thought of dozens of things to do if I were outside the field of this trap. Rayath has tried to take me outside and we've failed. And I can't think of a thing to do from the inside to fight back our flight through time. The trick, dear Pug, is not to fight the flight backward through time, but to accelerate it. We must travel faster and faster, moving at rates undreamed of. Tomas said, to what end? We move back further than the conflict, what do we gain? Think, Malamba, of the assembly, Macros said, using Pug's Suroni name. If we go back far enough. Pug said nothing for a while, then understanding began to dawn. We go back to the beginning of time. And before, when time had no meaning. Pug said, is this possible? Macros shrugged. I don't know. But as I can't think of anything else to try, I'm willing. I need your help. I have the knowledge, but not the power. Pug said, but tell me what to do. Macros motioned for him to sit and sat opposite him. Tomas stood behind his friend, observing with interest. Macros reached out and placed a hand upon Pug's head. Let my knowledge come into you. Pug felt his mind fill with images. And the universe as he knows it shudders. Only once before has he known this intense sense of panoramic awareness. That time he stood upon the tower of testing when he entered the ranks of the Great Ones. A more mature, more knowledgeable observer watches this time and understands so much more of what he sees. The symmetry, the order, the stunning magnificence that spin about him, all tied together in some plan beyond his ability to perceive. He stands in awe. He casts his awareness about and again is astonished at the wonders of the universe about him. How he again swims through the stars, again perceiving the mystic lines of force that bind together all things in the universe. He detects a tugging on those lines, and sees something striving to enter this universe from another. It is foul, a cancerous thing that threatens the order of all that is. It is a darkness, a blotting out. It is the enemy, but it is weak and cautious. He ponders its nature as it falls away from his understanding. He is moving backward in time. He observes the god. He can see himself sitting before the sorcerer, his boyhood friend behind. He knows what he must do. The flow of time about the garden is stately, moving at rhythms matching the normal rhythm of space and time about him, but reciprocal in flow. For each passing second, a second in the garden flows backwards. He reaches out, his mind finding the key to the time flow. As real to the touch as his spirit being, as a stone to his hand. He caresses it and feels the beat of the universe, the secret of the illusory dimension. He sees and knows, he understands and manipulates the flow, and now for each second of passing time in the universe, 2 seconds passes from the god. He feels a calm joy, for he has just accomplished something that only recently he would have judged beyond the ability of a mortal magician. He puts aside his pride and concentrates on the task at hand. Again he manipulates, and for each true second, 4 now flow about Thomas and Macros and himself. Again and again he duplicates this feat, and now for each hour that the universe ages, they flee backwards more than a day. Again, and it is 2 days, then 4, then more than a week, thrice more, and they move at better than a month for each 2 hour. Again and again and again, as soon as they pass a year for each hour, he pauses and sends forth his awareness. His mind soars across the cosmos like an eagle upon the wing, speeding between the stars and the mighty bird of prey, guiding past the peaks of the grey towers. He spies the hot and green-tinted star that is so familiar to him for the brief instant he understands. He is upon Kelawar, discovering the lost lore of the Eldar. A year and more back in time they have moved, as fast as the time to think. He returns his consciousness to his personal here and now. Again he manipulates time flow, and now it is 2 years per hour, then 4, 8, 16. Again he pauses and regards the universe. The stars revolve in an orderly fashion, hurtling through a cosmos so vast that their blinding speed appears little more than a crawl. but they move in odd pattern, their motions inverted, their travels reversed. He considers and again works upon the time frame. He is now a master of his practice, possessing abilities to dwarf the wildest ambitions of even the most arrogant member of the assembly. He is now certain of his own nature, so much more than he had thought, and he manipulates the time flow with ease. A wild thought passes through him. This is to be like a god. Then years of training surge up the warning, beware pride. Remember, you are but a mortal, and the first duty is to serve the Empire. His teachers at the Assembly did their job well. He ignores the intoxication of his power, rediscovering his wall, the perfect center of his being, and again manipulates the time flow. A year passes and reverts for each second in the true universe. Again and again he works his skill upon the time trap of the enemy, accelerating it beyond the expectations of those who fashioned it. Now a decade passes each second, and he knows he lives before a time of his birth. In the time it takes to draw breath, he has passed back before a time when Duke Boric's grandfather invaded Cryde. He works another pass of time, and now the kingdom is only half the size of its future size. With holdings of the Baron von Dartmoor marking its western boundary, twice more he accelerates the time factor, and the nations of his lifetime are little more than villages, peopled by simpler folk than those who will give rise to the nations. Again and again he works his magic. Then the universe rocks. The very fabric of reality is rent. Energies impossible to fathom explode about him violently beyond his ability to apprehend, and Puck opened his eyes. He felt a strange dislocation about him, and for a moment, his vision blurred. Tomas came to stand beside him and said, "Are you all right?" Pug, blinking, said, "Something's out there. Changed." Tomas looked skyward. "There's something happening." Macros regarded the heavens. Odd patterns of energies whirled madly across the firmament, while the stars wobbled in the course. "If we watch things, we will see calm down in time. We're seeing this from back to front, remember?" "Seeing what?" asked Pog. Tomas answered, "The Chaos Wars." There was a haunted look in his eyes, as if something in what occurred touched him deeply in a place he had not expected. But his face remained a mask while he watched the mad skies above. Macros nodded, standing up. He pointed heavenward. "See, even now we're passing into an epoch before the Chaos Wars. The days of the mad god's rage. The time of Stardeath, and whatever other colorful names myth and lore have conjured up for that period." Pug closed his eyes and felt his mind cold and numb, his head throbbing with a dull ache. Macros said, "It appears as though we're moving at a rate of 300 or 400 years a second in reverse time." Pug nodded. "So for every 3 seconds, about a millennium passes," he calculated. "That's a good start." "Start?" questioned Pug. "How fast do we need to move?" By my best calculation, billions of years. 1,000 years per second. We'll get back to the beginning in our lifetime, but just barely. We need better." Pug nodded, clearly fatigued, but he closed his eyes. Tomas looked skyward. The stars could now be seen to move, though, given their vast distances, it was still a slow movement. But even seeing this much motion was disquieting. Then their movement seemed to accelerate, and soon it was noticeably faster. Then Pug was again with them. "I've created a second spell within the structure of the trap. Each minute, the rate will double without my intervention. We're now moving at a rate of excess 2,000 years per second. And in a minute it will be 4, then 8, and 16, and so forth. So forth. Makarov's expression was one of approval. Good. That gives us a few hours. Tomas said, I think it's time for some questions then. Makarov smiled, his dark eyes piercing, and said, What you mean is you think it's time for some answers? Tomas said, Yes. That's exactly what I mean. Years ago you coerced me into betraying the Saronic peace treaty. And on the night you told me you were the author of my current existence. You said you gave me all. Everything I look. I see signs of your handiwork. I would know more, Makaros. Makaros said again. Well then, we have some time to spend, have we not? We're reaching a point in this unfolding drama where knowledge will no longer hurt you. What should you know? And he looked from Tomas to Pug. Pug glanced at his friend and looked hard at the sorcerer. Who are you? I? Makaros seemed amused by the question. I'm who I am. The question seemed almost rhetorical. I've so many names, I can't recall every one. He sighed in remembrance. But the one given at my birth translates in the king's tongue simply as hawk. With a smile he said, My mother's people were a little primitive. He pondered. I'm not sure where to begin. Perhaps with the place and time where I was born. On a distant world, a vast empire once ruled. Its height a match for Great Kesh and even Suranuani. This empire was undistinguished in most ways. No artists, philosophers, or leaders of genius, save one or two who popped up at an odd moment over the centuries. But it endured. And the one noteworthy thing it did was inflict peace upon its dominion. My father was a merchant, undistinguished in all ways, save he was thrifty, and held loan papers on many of the most powerful men in his community. This I tell you so you'll understand. My father was not someone about whom great sagas were composed. He was a most unremarkable, common man. Then in the land of my father's birth, another common man appeared, but one with the ability of spellbinding oratory and an irritating habit of making people think. He raised questions that made those in power nervous. For a while, he was a peaceful man. He gathered followers. Some of them tended towards radical and violent. So those who ruled leveled a false charge against him. He was brought to a closed trial, where no man could raise a voice on his behalf. And in the most extreme and harsh verdict, he was accounted. He spoke treason, which was patently false, and he was ordered executed. His execution was to be public, in the fashion of that time. So many of the populace were there, including my father. That poor merchant, of few gifts, was there with some of his highly placed countrymen. And to please his rulers, who owed him money, he participated in mocking and ridiculing the condemned man upon his way to his death. Rain, hello, it's good to see you, welcome in. Ads in 4, alright, we'll go ahead and let the ads run. Thank you, Frost, I appreciate you. I didn't really experience anime until fall of 87. Well, I mean, that's fairly early in the American anime days, though, Calamitous. Esther, you said, good evening, Castle. I apologize for my lateness. I've been busy investing in trading, which I'm still learning. My brother has been involved in trading for over 30 years, and it can be a lucrative endeavor if one is successful. That's very true, Esther. It's a worthwhile thing to learn, and welcome in. It's good to see you. I didn't really until 89 or so. My buddy's parents would let him rent anything anime and never paid attention. Yeah, well, and again, in the United States, like anime didn't really start flowing into the United States until like the mid to late 80s, anyways. I snuck in while you were reading, that's quite alright. You know, you've always got a seat in the back if you like it. I missed something a few paragraphs ago, pages ago, when you see this comment. What did you miss, Bethany? Let me know and I will catch you up. You have missed a little bit, Esther, but it's just Pug and Tomas are they're in a time trap. Macros figured out that they could probably break it by making it move backwards, and then now Macros is telling his history. So we're finally going to learn about the origins of Macros the Black. Psycho Blaze, thank you for the follow over on Twitch. You've marked us on your map. You should be able to find the tavern now. Whenever you seek a story. Excuse me. Alright. No, this is A Darkness at Sethanon, Esther. By Raymond E. Feist. Alright, friends, over on Twitch, we're going to run ads real quick. We will be back in 3 minutes. Sadly, Twitch makes us run these, but it keeps the pre-rolls off. And it'll give us an hour without them. If you're willing to sit through them, we make a little bit off of it. And we appreciate you for sticking around. It does, in some way, help to support, but more than anything, it keeps Twitch from running hour-long ads on the front end of our story times. So we will be right back over on Twitch, and I'll still be chatting with all of you. Thank you, Castle, for updating me on what to read. Of course, Esther. And if my head's ever down and you're ever curious, there's always an annotation up here in the corner that tells what we're reading. Yeah, anime wasn't easy to find back then. We had a huge mom-and-pop video rental place. City I grew up in, the guy would find any movie he asked him to find. Anything. For me, it was old Hong Kong action flicks. I love old cheesy, like, kung fu movies. They're a guilty pleasure of mine. We talked about this a few weeks ago. I really love cheesy old kung fu movies. They're one of my absolute guilty pleasures. But yeah, like, you don't really see a lot of Americanized anime. You don't really see a lot of dubs or American importation of anime till like the late 80s, mid to late 80s. And it didn't really get big until like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And these really got popular amongst children. And then a lot of older anime really started ramping up with Toonami and Adult Swim and all of that. They were talking about when they were, and someone said before the Rift Wars. Then Twitch glitched and I feel like you were further in the story when I fixed itself. Based on the chat, I know it was my end that was the problem. Yeah, so basically what they're doing is Pog has worked the time spell to move them back in time at a rapid pace. And what they were seeing was the Chaos Wars. And the Chaos Wars were when the Dragon Lords were basically destroying all of the worlds. So Tomas's lineage, the lineage of I can't remember the name of the Dragon Lord, but the Dragon Lord who possessed him, who he inherited, that was the war he participated in, destroying basically a bunch of different worlds and civilizations. I got into anime in the early 2000s. Toonami on Cartoon Network, still love it. Toonami was one of the greatest things that ever happened to anime. Toonami was incredible. Toonami was one of the best things that Cartoon Network ever did. And I'm convinced that Cartoon Network only survived for as long as it did because of Toonami. Because if you look at, like, Cartoon Network went out of business. I don't know how many of you know that, but Cartoon Network as a studio and a channel went out of business. And I think that the channel still exists, but it only plays reruns. And that's because the quality went into the garbage in, like, 2012. And they were surviving on life support up to that point. But yeah, like the late 80s, I think, is when anime started coming into the US. It might be a little bit earlier than that, but you didn't get any really big imports until around then. And then in the late 90s, you had like Pokemon and Digimon and Flint the Time Detective and Yu-Gi-Oh! And Case Closed, like all of these were coming out. And then they really took off with Toonami. like the regular weekly animes that were being syndicated, really just exploded with Toonami, and it integrated into American culture. Americans are one of the biggest consumers of anime on the planet now. So sad MTV too. Yeah, MTV and G4 TV. Like G4 TV and MTV and Cartoon Network were staples of pop culture in the United States. Kiki's Delivery Service is, of course, a classic. You're right there, Ashley. I should give more credit to, hey, Joker, how's it going, my friend? We gotta give credit to Studio Ghibli and the legend Hayao Miyazaki. Because of Hayao Miyazaki, anime was taken seriously as an artistic medium, and I will stand on that to my death. Because of the work that Studio Ghibli did with Howl's Moving Castle, Princess Mononoke, Nausicaa in the Valley of the Wind, and especially Kiki's Delivery Service and Spirited Away, those two films were some of the biggest animated releases ever in the United States that were not Disney releases. It's absolutely spectacular. Mushu, hello, my friend. Good to see you. Did I miss Free? No, I haven't brought up Freerun tonight, and I can't because I'll be on it forever. Dragon Ball Z, etc. Especially, absolutely. Yeah, and Kiki's Delivery Service is a great film. It is, even if you don't like anime, any of the Studio Ghibli films, except for maybe like Earwig and the Witch, are well worth watching. Anyone else stand in their living room trying to go Super Saiyan with Goku as a kid, watching Toonami? Everyone and anyone who tells you they didn't. If you were born after 1978 and you didn't do that, it's lies. It's lies. Don't listen to them. Connor. I was lucky that I had a friend in grade school that was Japanese and he introduced me to anime at the time. Yeah, see, and it's really, really, you're fortunate, Frost. I have a pic of me doing. See, Rain even admits it over here. Hillary, hello, it's good to see you. Renato, hello, good to see you as well. Disney did something though. I forget if Disney did. Disney facilitated the American publishing, or was it? I don't know if Disney did. Disney did. I think Kiki's Delivery Service, but I think it's Warner Brothers, maybe, or Universal. Warner Brothers or Universal. Whoever owns HBO did the dubbing for the rest of them. Some of the early ones I think Disney did, but I don't know off the top of my head. I love Totoro. Totoro is absolutely a brilliant story. When I saw My Neighbor Totoro in theaters as a child, I thought it was the best thing I've ever seen. And it probably was, Aaron, to be perfectly fair. Hayao Miyazaki's films are absolute. They're brilliant. They're perfect storytelling. They're high art. They're wonderful. Doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter who you are. Hayao Miyazaki's films are worth watching. I've seen all of Hayao Miyazaki's films, and yeah, some of them are absolutely heartbreaking, but they're all brilliant. I didn't get into anime until I forced myself to sit down and watch Demon Slayer at my local theater. Showed Studio Ghibli Fest. I watched it, don't get me wrong, but Ghibli Fest and Demon Slayer were clenchers. I believe it, Bethany. Once you give the really good anime a chance, you never leave. Jaeger isn't in here, but Jaeger was hard on. Hillary, thank you for the heart, me. I appreciate that. Tips to the Tavern Keeper always appreciated. Demon Slayer is very good. I don't like the main character. I think he's a bad main character, but the storytelling and world building of Demon Slayer is very good. Ironside Jaeger, Carson Jaeger, he's a long-time community member. He stood on the hill. He's like, anime is weird. I hate anime. I'll never watch anime. I got him to watch a couple of good ones, and afterwards he was hooked. And he's like, I felt so dumb that I didn't give this a try because it's so clearly very good. It's brilliant storytelling. I was like, yeah. I'm like, and I'm not gonna make fun of you for it because I told you, like, you once you get in there and you really want, like, because there's weird stuff in anime, but there's weird stuff anywhere. Like horror movies are weird. Dramas are weird. Romance movies are weird. There's weird portions of every genre. So obviously you're going to get weird stuff and you're going to get cultural stuff you don't understand. But once you watch the good stuff in anime, you're like, wow, there's so many incredible stories in anime that I never would have given a chance had I not watched this. I was born in '78 and never got into anime. I'm a Trekkie in sci-fi and fantasy. Fan enjoy live action over animated, and I agree to a degree. Like I understand where you're coming from, Ace. But some of the best stories told today are told in anime. Black Butler is weird. I think Black Butler has a great story overall, but it's got some weird stuff in it too that is unnecessary. Uh, House moving castle made no sense to me. It seems to be missing chunks of information, and there kind of is. Howl's Moving Castle is based off of a book, and if you read the book, it makes the film all the more beautiful. But a lot of the films are a little bit abstract, and you have to really pay attention to what's going on. So they're definitely not casual watches, Bobby. I'll say that. Oh, I'm so far behind. I didn't realize I'd scrolled up by accident. I'm a big Dragon Ball fan. I like the original Dragon Ball. I like original Dragon Ball more than I like Dragon Ball Z. And it's a little bit goofy, but that's also Akira Toriyama was a goofy guy. And an Naruto fan. Why did her hair randomly turn white? It was because she was. It's because she was getting old. It's because she was going back and forth from being old and being young, and eventually, the hair was a part of her clinging to the point of she felt like she was already, you know, and she already felt like she was old. She already felt like she was aged out. So when she would go back and forth with like breaking the spell with true love with Howl, and then going back to being old again, eventually her hair stayed white because that was part of her clinging to how she felt about herself, but no longer being ashamed about how she felt about herself. I'm enjoying the new season of JJK quite a bit. I haven't watched it yet, and I'm really hesitating because I don't like animes that spend a lot of I don't like anything that spends a lot of time torturing their characters. Black Butler I already read that. Right now I'm liking anime about isekai and fantasy, and there are a lot of really good ones in isekai, a lot of really bad ones too, but there's a lot of really good ones. And medieval, starting with the original Legend of Zelda on the NES. Yeah, that's about when I started gaming too. Ace. I still need to see Infinity Castle movie. I feel the main character grew a lot in that movie. The lady and I haven't watched anything in that point yet. Like we're not even past the we just passed the Sword Village and we haven't caught back up yet. I was never much of a Trekkie or a Star Wars guy. I know a lot of people were. I like the original Star Trek, but I was never a huge fan of Star Trek. Seven Deadly Sins is a good anime. I like the first 2 seasons of Seven Deadly Sins. It gets really convoluted after that point, but I like the first 2 seasons. That was due to The Curse of the Witch of the Waste. Yeah, Bethany's got you there. Aeon Flux was weird, but blew my mind too. Not animated, but fascinating. So, Aeon Flux is sort of like borderline. It's almost anime, but Aeon Flux is really good. The movie and the anime are good. I grew up on Dragon Ball Z, but I've seen Dragon Ball, and I think it's better for sure. Master Rosalie is hilarious and my favorite. Yeah. Like, Dragon Ball is closer to what Akira Toriyama liked to write, and the first season of Dragon Ball Z is like that too. And you can just tell in the later seasons of Dragon Ball Z, he just lost the passion for it, because it wasn't what he liked. To be honest, I only know Studio Ghibli, everything else feels too childish, shonen. I probably haven't tried good adult anime. It's probably true, Renato. I would recommend starting with something like, if you really like high fantasy, Chainsaw Man's a bit extreme, right? Chainsaw Man and Paranoia Agent, those they're good. Don't get me wrong, they're very good. But those are a bit extreme for someone like trying to get into anime. I would say do something like Frieren or Trigun, or even Full Metal Alchemist. Those ones are really good examples of incredible storytelling with a really great characters and world building. Steam Boy is great. I would even do Last Exile. Last Exile is really good. Trigun is an all time. Like Trigun is one of the best ever made, and it is the only perfect anime I've ever watched. Blood Blockade Battlefront, which was made by the same guy who made Trigun, is also very good. Not as good as Trigun, but it is very good. Johnny Young Bosch plays Vash, the Stampede. I didn't know that. That's really interesting. That's very interesting. Somebody highlighted a message and I missed it. I still hold you need to see the Infinity Movie Castle. I feel the main character grew a lot in the movie. It's not available for streaming or anything until probably toward the end of the year. Yeah, once it's available, the lady and I will watch it. We were going to go see it in theaters, but we just get so busy working, we don't ever have time to go do anything that's really out of the house. Which is kind of sad, but also not, we like what we do, so it's not super sad. Okay, I'm so running behind on these messages. Hang on. Sword Art Online, can't wait for a real full dive to come out. I like Sword Art Online. A lot of people didn't like Sword Art Online, but I think Sword Art Online is good. Sword Art Online is not like super deep. It's not like this incredibly deep thing, but it's got good story. It's got good characters, and it's got good world building. They're not like blow you out of the water, but it's a good like 5, 6, 7 out of 10, depending on what you like. Jujutsu Kaisen is a good one, but the later seasons are rough. It's just like Attack on Titan. Though I think Attack on Titan's first season was good, and then went majorly downhill after the first season. And again, like the world building and story is good. I just don't like stories that torture their characters. I just really don't. Fullmetal Alchemist is exceptional. Psycho-Pass is a great one. Like if you like dystopian future and sci-fi, Psycho-Pass. If you've ever seen the film Minority Report with oh god, why am I forgetting his name? What's the guy who's in Minority Report? Lovey is in Legend 2. Tom Cruise. If you liked the film Minority Report, Psycho-Pass is like an anime version of that. And I should clarify, when I say Trigun, I mean the old Trigun, not the new one. The new one is terrible. The new one is very bad. The old one is very good. Trigun is so awesome. Appleseed was good. I like Appleseed a lot. I think Appleseed is kind of dull for a lot of people because it's very story heavy. So Appleseed has a good story, but it's very story heavy. So it's not as fast paced as anime usually is. Yeah, Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex is another one that is very, very deep. And a lot of people, don't like it. Hi, Kayla. Hello. Good to see you. Thank you for dropping in. We appreciate you. Fullmetal Alchemist is one of my top... Well, Fullmetal Alchemist is a top anime of all time. Like, just quality-wise, it is one of the best animes that's ever been made. 1998 Trigun. Yes. Trigun Stampede, I know some people like it. Objectively, it's not very good. It literally ruins the entirety of the story for the show in the first episode and in some of its trailers, which was dreadful for me. I like Sword Art Online a lot. Yes. If you have doubts or unsure of what you're doing, you think you're not being seen, I'm okay with you sending me a message. Thank you, Esther. Yes, Tom Cruise. That was who I'm way behind on messages. Yeah, animated waffles. I'm trying to catch up so we can get back to reading. Death Note is another one. Death Note is really good. The ending is terrible. I will stand up. They should have only watch up to the second to last episode or third to last episode of Death Note and then stop. The Appleseed comic is better than the anime. The anime was very story heavy. Nobody seems to be giving any love to. I love Spirited Away, Bethany. A lot of people, I know a lot of people didn't like it. But I think that Spirited Away is definitely one of the best ones that Miyazaki ever made. Anyone ever seen Megalobox? Megalobox is spectacular, Gunnar. It's an absolutely spectacular one. I'll stand on that. Okay, alright. I think I'm caught up over here. Yes, I'm caught up over here. Now, Facebook. Hey, Mel, how's it going? Since Crisscross Applesauce on the Storytime Rog, I made it. I'm glad you made it in. I have seen the new Trigun. I don't care for it. Again, I know a lot of people like it. I'm not telling anybody not to watch it, but I just don't like it as much as the original. They took out some of the best characters in the show. They took them out or changed them, and then they sort of spoiled the entirety of the story in the first 2 episodes. So I did not. Too much gore or sexual violence is not good storytelling, and I have to turn it up. Yeah, and I agree with that, Aaron. Anything that relies on shock value, I don't care for. I searched for protozoa. You have found my niche, Castle. Yeah, there we go. Hi, Mel. It's good to see you. I'm glad you dropped in. Bear says my kids love Spirited Away. Yeah, Spirited Away is spectacular. And yeah, I do know a lot of people really like the new Trigon. Again, I don't care for it. I think that it does not do justice to the series, but it is well animated, and a lot of people have enjoyed it. So, and again, whenever I say that something is of poor quality or that I don't like it, that's not me saying that you shouldn't like it. That's not me saying that you're not allowed to like it. That's not saying that you're dumb for liking it. You can like what you like. It's just my opinion, perspective, or analysis. But yeah, I did not care for the new Trigon. And part of that is because I'm very attached to the old one. The old one is one of the best animes ever made. It's in the top 5 best animes ever made. I see it everywhere all the time. It seems like the go-to with his films. Never heard of Castle in the Sky, Kiki's Delivery Service. And again, it is good, but I feel it's most people's first one, and they just keep running to that one. Castle in the Sky and Whispers of the Heart are the ones that absolutely do not get enough love. I think Castle in the Sky, Whispers of the Heart are ones that don't get as much love as they should. Hey, we can all have different opinions. That's why there's so many options. Right, absolutely. And that's why, because I will give my analysis of media, and I'll get some people who will message me and they'll be like, hey, it's messed up that you said that this thing is bad. Just because I said it's bad doesn't mean you can't enjoy it. I'm giving you my analysis of the quality of the thing. And if you contrast old Trigon to new Trigon, the new old Trigon is just, it's better storytelling, better characters, not better animation, but it was also all hand drawn, so there's that as well. I haven't seen it all. I'll have to watch it. Yeah, and don't just take my word for things either. Go and watch the thing or read the thing for yourself. Because, it's you should give your own. You should go give it a chance on your own. You can consider my opinion or perspective, but don't just take my word for something. Go and look for yourself. There's no harm in going and spending an hour watching a film, or going and taking 40 minutes to watch 2 episodes of an anime, even if I don't like it or even if I don't think it's very good. Go give it a chance, and if you like it, there might be something about it you like. You might like the music, you might like the aesthetic, you might like the characters. Never been my thing. It's a way to bond with her. Well, and again, you're not gonna like everything. Just because something is a great story, on the opposite end of it, doesn't mean that you're going to enjoy it. What is that, Molly? Trying to get me to get back on reading? I am gonna get back on reading right now. Yeah, I know they do. In my personal opinion, hand animation is superior to CGI. And I agree with you on that. And I think that it's really a matter of it's a matter of like personal aesthetic preference, I guess. Like some people will like computer animation better. I prefer old school hand animation. I think that it has a more, I don't know, like a more visceral sort of experience when you watch it. I don't know, there's something about that. For fun, Afro Samurai and Samurai Champloo again are really great. I like those quite a bit. Hey Castle, want to melt your brain laughing while watching an anime? Watch Excel Saga. I have watched Excel Saga Calamities. The lady, that's a bad word in the tavern because the lady does not like Excel Saga. There's another one that's similar to Excel Saga called Miami Guns. And Miami Guns is absolutely ridiculous. It's neither one of those is safe for children, by the way. So if you have children, don't watch those with children, but yes. And the lady and I both prefer hand animation. When we start doing animated stories through the tavern, we are going to do some computer stuff, but we would like to do a lot of like old school line animation when we start doing animated stories for the tavern. I would it's something we both really want to do. But all right, let's get back to what? What are you doing? Cat is meowing at me. To me, it's the style. Hand drawn looks like seeing a painting, which in a lot of cases is BG. Well, and again, there are some instances where the computer animation looks better, but there are also some instances where the background. Okay, it is the background, right. Old school Disney cell animation, yeah. And it's just one of those things where sometimes the computer animation looks better for the story, but a lot of times, like, you get a more emotional feel from hand-drawn animation. That's why Ghibli films hit so hard, because the vast majority of them, even if they do use computer animation for a background, the majority of it is hand-drawn, which is crazy. I have no face footage. Okay, that's not for me. All stories, whether you like them or not, all have something to learn from. Deeply thankful for your insightful storytelling. Well, Wild, thank you for that. I appreciate you. And I'm happy to pass them along. I like Tim Burton, that's what I said. I like Tim Burton too, and Tim Burton doesn't even draw. Most of that's claymation. Well, there's some drawings in Tim Burton. What did you need, my love? Oh, ate most of it. It's the what's left is in the bag on the top of the shelf because the cat keeps trying to get it. All the way to the top of the shelf, Ziploc bag. No. Why would you put it in the fridge? Then it can get moist and get bacteria on it. Yeah. Okay. I told you I was gonna power through it. We definitely should make some more. One thing I always loved about hand-drawn anime is that it was founded on the study of classic Disney kinematics, which was done by overlaying real people with similar characters. I didn't know that, Columbus. That's actually really interesting. The castle from Howl's Moving Castle is both drawn and computer gen. Yeah. Which is what I mean. Like, even when there is computer gen in Ghibli movies, it's combined with hand-drawn, which is why it feels so awesome. I've been less active on social platforms recently due to the increased work commitments. Well, which is fine, Esther. There's always a chair for you when you're ready to come in. If anyone is looking for an amazing animation, please watch Ralph Bakshi films. I recognize the name, but I couldn't say anything off the top of my head. Claymation is an underrated film medium. Shout out to Wallace and Gromit. Claymation and stop-motion films are some of my favorites because they have sort of like an uncanny valley to them, but it's almost an endearing uncanny valley, if that makes sense. Cheese, Gromit! Cheese! Kubo in the 2 strings, or 3 strings, or whatever it was. Yeah, that one was really well done. Renato said Kubo right as you said it. Yeah, we have seen if it exists in storytelling and it is excellent, we try to pay attention to it. Tim Burton is another fave. Yeah, Tim Burton and Jim Henson are two folks you just can't get away from in storytelling. That's Wallace and Gromit. That impression just made my... I love Wallace and Gromit. I think everyone should watch Wallace and Gromit just because it's brilliant. Wallace and Gromit is one of my favorite things. Did you know the Kubo studio was created by Nike's founder's son? I did not know that. That's interesting. Rob actually invented Mighty Mouse and did the first animated adaptation of Lord of the Rings. That's why I know it from the Lord of the Rings animation. Thank you, Frost. I appreciate you. Yeah, Wallace says it. It's from the Wallace and Gromit animated films. Cheese, Gromit! Cheese! The moon is made of cheese! I love me some Wallace and Gromit. All right. Let's get back. We're going to have to run ads again over on Twitch. Let's get back to reading. Gotta get back to reading. Huh? What is top knot? You had olives, but I don't know that you had tapenade. There were olives in the back. On the left-hand side, in the back, there should be some olives. Some of it does. And I should go to bed soon, right? Jim Henson was my childhood. Sesame Street taught me to read at 2 years old. Yeah, we have a deep love and respect for Jim Henson and his storytelling. Okay, let's see how much longer we have. Good lord, these chapters are so long. Oh my god, guys, we have another 20 pages. There's no way. There's no way we're getting through all this tonight. This chapter is 40 pages long. We've already done almost 20 pages. Yeah. Oh my gosh. These chapters are so long. I don't know that there is a logical break in this chapter that we'll be able to make. I guess I can just keep going until it's done, but oh. This chapter is gonna be 40 pages. I'm gonna be hoarse and deaf at the end of it all. Once both books are finished. 10 more pages. I think we could probably do 10 more pages, yeah. Because we usually end at about 9 p.m. So as soon as you write for crabbing, wait, crabbing on what? What did I crab on, Bear? You said that too soon and I didn't get to see what you said. Oh, you did just mean like chatting. Oh no, extra tavern time, late tavern. Oh no, Lamar. Your lobster is too buttery. Sounds like an innuendo. Castle, I'm more than happy to hear more storytelling. Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna try to get through 10 more pages and we'll see where we're at then. I need to go to bed before midnight. I want to fix my window. I'm with you, Bethany. I want to go to bed on time tonight too. So I'm gonna try to do 10 more pages and we'll see where I'm at with the 10. All right. And then once we'll work forward from there. That was a great discussion about anime one time ago. Right. Don't overexert. I'm gonna try not to. Let's get back. Let me take a drink because I've been waffling this whole time. Let's get back to it. All right. All right. So they were going to execute the man. For whatever reason, face whim or the god's dry sense of humor, the condemned man paused in his walk to the place of execution and faced my father. Of all those about who were tormenting and berating him, he cast his eyes on this one simple merchant. It may have been this man was a magician, or it could have simply been a dying man's curse. But out of all there upon the boulevard, he cursed my father. It was a strange curse, which my father dismissed as the ravings of a man gone mad with terror. But after the man had died, and years passed, my father noticed he wasn't getting any older. His neighbors and business associates were showing the ravages of the years, but my father looked much as he always did, a merchant of about 40 years. When the differences became pronounced, my father fled his homeland, lest he be branded a companion of dark powers. He traveled for years. At first, he put his time to good purpose, becoming a fair scholar. Then he learned the curse for what it really was. A serious accident occurred, leaving him bedridden for most of a year. He discovered death was denied him. Should he be wounded unto death, he would heal eventually. He began to long for the release of death, the end to the endless days. He returned to his homeland to seek knowledge of this man who had cursed him. He discovered that myth now shrouded the truth, that the man now stood at the center of religious debate. He was seen by some as a charlatan, by others as a messenger of the gods, and by a few as a god himself, and by still others as a demon herald of damnation. That debate conspired to generate some strife within the empire. Religious wars are never pretty, but one story kept surfacing. The 3 magic artifacts associated with the dead man had the power to cure, to bring peace, and finally remove curses. As I understand it, there was a wand, a cloak, and a cup. My father began at once to seek those artifacts. Centuries passed, and at last my father came to a tiny nation at the frontier of this empire, where it was supposed that the last of the 3 artifacts could be found, and the other 2 being counted lost beyond recovery. The empire was at last dissolving, as all such things do, and this land was a wild place. On reaching that nation, my father was beset by brigands, who wounded him severely, leaving him for dead. But of course, my father simply lay in mute agony, waiting to heal. A woman found him. Her husband had died in a fishing mishap, leaving her without resources. My father was of an ancient race, steeped in culture and history, but my mother's people, called people of the lizard, were barely more than savages. A widow who was to be shunned for any he gave her, assumed responsibility for her. So this woman of nearly non-existent means nursed my father to health, then lay with him. For she was without a man of her own. My father was, by then, an obviously well-learned man, and possibly an important one. The long and short of it was, I was conceived. My father made his intent known to my mother, who professed no knowledge of the artifact my father sought, though it was common enough legend in that far land. I suspect she simply wished to keep her second husband close to home. So, for a time, my father stayed with my mother. In the canon of my father's people, it is said that the child will inherit the sins of the father. But whatever the cause, it is from his legacy I sprang. My father remained long enough to teach me his language and his history and the rudiments of reading and writing. A rumor made its way to our land, a hint of the lost artifact, and my father resumed his quest, heading westward across the vast ocean. I never saw him again. For all I know, he quests still. So my mother packed me up and returned to the village of her birth. My mother was left with a son and no reasonable explanation from where he sprang. As far as her people were concerned, she concocted some nonsense about mating with a demon because of my father's teachings. I was far more educated than the wisest elder among them, and so my knowledge gave some credibility to those stories. In short, my mother gained significant influence in the community. She became a seer, though her abilities were more in the area of theatrics than divination. But I began seeing visions as a child. I left my mother when I was 14, wandering to where an ancient order of priests abided, in a land that seemed distant from my home at the time. A mere hop, step, and jump compared to the traveling I have done since. They trained me, vesting in me a dying law. When I took my place within that brotherhood, I was transported in spirit. I was taken somewhere. At some agency, perhaps, the gods themselves spoke to me. I was judged one among multitudes, a special vessel for rare powers. But there would be a price in taking that power for my own. I was given a choice. I might remain a simple mumbler of prayers, without much importance in the order of things. But I would have a safe and comfortable life, or I might learn magic arts. But it was clear There would be pain and danger in that path. I hesitated. But as much as I wished for the peaceful existence of a monastic life, the Lord of Knowledge was too strong to resist. I chose the power, and the price was twofold. I was doomed, like my father, to live without hope of death, and was also given the curse of foreknowledge, as I needed to know things in order to act my part. That knowledge came to me. From that day forward, I lived my life in concert with that foreknowledge. I am destined to serve forces that work to bring sanity into the universes, and they are opposed by equally powerful agencies of destruction. Macros sat back. In short, I am a man who inherited a curse and gained some gifts. Bug said, I think I understand what you're saying. We have considered you the master behind some dark game, but the truth is you're the biggest pawn in the contest. Macros nodded. I alone have not had free will, or at least lacked the courage to challenge my foreknowledge. I have known from the day I left that priesthood that I would live for centuries, and that many times I would be required to manipulate the lives of others. Toward what ends, I am only now beginning to understand. Valkyrie Love, hello, welcome in, and thank you for the resub. Arthur Christie, hello. Steven Stuff, hello, welcome in, my friends. Everyone give me just a moment. Have a good night, everyone. Time to get to bed. Good night, Molly Sue. Rest well. I'm Josh the Gamer. Steven Stuff, thank you for the follow. And Rebecca, welcome back in. Wait, we can order drinks? Yes, order drinks. Come on in. Back for another butterbeer. Darth Nexus, I saw you the first time. I forgot to say hello. Hello, welcome in, my friend. Welcome into the Badgers. Let's get you a toot on the raid horn. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Welcome in, my friends. For those of you who are new, I am Castle, this is my tavern, and here we talk about myth and lore and tales of yore. Every now and again I read you a story. For all of you who are coming in from Arthur Christie's page, welcome, it's so very good to have you. Steve, thank you. Oh, we don't have the look command active, but I appreciate you. Let me shout out Arthur Christie here, real quick. Thank you kindly for raiding in, I appreciate you. I hope that your stream went well. For everyone who came in, if you need to run off, it's perfectly alright. Go ahead and do what you need to do. Christy, go and get some rest, get some food, get some drink, whatever it is required of you. And I appreciate you for bringing the badgers in. It's always good to see you all. Even after all the reading, you impress the ability to blow that horn. It's a part of the job. Okay, back into reading. The badgers are being sappy tonight, are they? I was dropping off the Viking raspberry salad when Elsie and I fell off the bed. Sorry, Esther. We have to announce the raids, otherwise people won't know that we've got guests. What were the badgers being sappy about this evening, Christy? They seem like a sappy bunch to me. Seem very, I don't want to say melodramatic, we'll say sentimental. How wonderful the writing community is. Every community has its quirks and negatives, of course. But there are a lot of really wonderful people in the writing and reading communities, I will agree with that. We're talking about how we all need to add a badger to our story somehow. That is interesting. And it would be a fun nod to your community, wouldn't it? And it's relatively easy to do. You add a badger in and there you go. I should have had my Viking raspberry shirt on. Only raids I get here is licks and loud howls from Elsie. Fortunate you're not having any proper Viking raids in your home, Esther. That would be not pleasant, I would presume. While they were generally well organized, they were not well behaved, from my remembrance. I've added it into my next one. Very good. Very good. Well, friends, grab your seat. Christy, if you need to run off, you're absolutely welcome to do so. I appreciate you for bringing the badgers in. We got about another 45 minutes of reading tonight, so any of you who want to stick around for story time, please feel free to grab a seat, to fill your glass, and we'll keep you in. And Valkyrie, thank you for the resubscription. Tips to the Tavern Keeper, always appreciated. They will be well cared for. They will be well preened and fed badgers when you see them next. Have a wonderful night. Okay, where was I? To all what ends? I'm only now beginning to understand. What do you mean? Said Tomas. Makaros looked about. If things proceed as I suspect, we shall bear witness to that which no other mortal being in the universe or even the gods themselves have seen. If we survive, we will spend some time returning home. I think we can learn all we need during that time. For now, I am tired, as is Poke. I think I will sleep. Wake me. When? Asked Tomas. Macros smiled enigmatically. You'll know when. Macros! Macros's eyes opened and he looked to where Thomas pointed. He stretched and rose, saying, Yes, it is time. Pug also awoke and his eyes widened. Above him the stars raced backwards in flight as time ran counter to the normal course. At furious speed, the skies were ablaze with fiery beauty as rampaging energies were released in colors of splendid intensity, and light was more concentrated, as if everything had been drawn together. At the center of this loomed an utter void. It appeared they were rushing along, glittering brightly streaked tunnel toward the darkest hole imaginable. This should prove interesting, observed the sorcerer. I know. You'll think it odd, but I find it strangely exhilarating, not knowing what's coming next. I mean, I know what's likely to happen, but I haven't seen it. Pug said, That's fine. But what is this? The beginning, Pug. Even as he spoke, it appeared the matter about them was rushing faster and faster towards that total blackness. Now the colors were blending together to be a pure white light, almost painful to observe. Look behind, said Thomas. So they did. And where real space had been, now utter grey of rift space was seen. Macros applauded in obvious delight. Wonderful! It is as I thought. We shall elude this trap, my friends. We are approaching that place where time has no meaning. Watch! In a final rush of stunning majesty, all about them collapsed downwards, as if being sucked into the maw of that black nothing. Macro said, Pug, hold off light before we're pulled into that thing. Pug closed his eyes and did as he was bid. Faster and faster, the last stuff of the universe was devoured by a giant thing before them, until the last vestige, the last mote of matter, vanished into the hole, and then Pug clutched at his temples and cried out in pain. Macros and Tomas moved toward him as his legs buckled and helped him to sit. After a moment, he said, I'm all right. His face was ashen and his brow was covered in sweat. It's just, when the time trap ended, the spell of acceleration ended. It was painful. Macro said, Sorry, I should have anticipated that. Almost to himself he added, "But little of what we know will have any validity here and now." Macros pointed upward, where a vast and utter darkness could be seen. It seemed to curve along a limitless line that moved off beyond the ability of the eye to apprehend. And the garden and the city forever hovered at the edge of that boundary. Macros said, "Fascinating. Now we know the city does exist outside of normal order of the universe." Macros regarded the massive thing above, counting silently to himself. "I think it's about time, given how long ago Pug's spell was cancelled." "What is this?" asked Tomas, pointing to the impossible black orb against the grey. "Some of the universes, Tomas," answered the sorcerer. "The primal stuff everything else stems from. It is everything, except this little jot of land we stand on, and the city itself. There's so much there, the size and distance have no meaning. We are millions of times more distant from the surface of that matter than Midkemia from its sun. But look how large it looms before us, blotting out more than half the sky. Staggering to contemplate, every light cannot escape it. For light has not been created. We are back before time, before the beginning. We are witnesses to the start of all things. Riath, attend this." The dragon woke from her temple and stretched. She approached to stand behind the three men. Macros said, "Keep watching." All turned to regard the utter darkness. For several minutes nothing occurred, as if no air moved in the garden. There was a profound silence. The observers were acutely aware of their own being, feeling each sensation down to the rhythm of blood coursing through their bodies. But no sound save their own breathing could they apprehend. They came to the note. Each was transported, though they moved not a step. A filling joy, a profound sense of perfect rightness washed over them, beauty too terrible to comprehend. It was as if music, a single flawless note, sounded and was felt rather than heard. Colors more vivid than any pigment were seen, yet only the dark void hung before their eyes. They felt crushed under the weight of the indescribable wonder and terror. They were rendered so insignificant in an instant that each of them despaired and felt alone, yet in that crystalline instant each experienced exaltation. Touched by something so wonderful, it brought tears of joy flowing without stint. It was impossible to comprehend. There was only a flickering, as if a million lines of force sprang across the surface of the void. But they were gone so quickly the watchers could not apprehend their passage. One instant all was black and formless, then a latticework of countless glowing lines spread across the magnificent void, and light filled the skies. Staggering in its purity and strength, all were forced to avert their eyes from that blinding display for a moment. A blaze of stunning energies poured forth as seen before, but now flowing outward. A strange emotion swept through Pug and his companions, one of completeness, as if what they had experienced was now at an end. All continued to weep in joy at the perfect beauty of the display. "Macros, what was that?" asked Tomas softly in awe. "The hand of God," he whispered, his eyes wide with wonder. "The prime urge. The first cause, the ultimate. I don't know what to call it. I know only this. One moment, there was nothing. The next, all existed. It is the first mystery. Even now that I've seen it, I do not pretend to understand it." The sorcerer laughed, a loud, joyous sound, and did a little dance. Pug and Tomas exchanged questioning looks, and Macros saw he was the object of their scrutiny. With an expression of genuine mirth, he said, "It just occurred to me that there's more than one reason we're here." When their expressions betrayed incomprehension, he said, "I cannot imagine even a god to be without vanity. And were I the ultimate, I'd want an audience for a show like that." Both Pug and Tomas began to laugh. Macros continued his little caper until he hummed a merry tune. "Gods, I love a question I can't answer. It keeps things interesting, even after so many years." Macros paused as his dance, and his face clouded in concentration. After a moment, he said, "Some of my powers return." Pug ceased his laughter. "Some. Enough, so that I may more effectively manipulate your power when needed." He gave a sly nod. "He would add something to the total." Pug looked upward and regarded the splendor of a newly born universe spreading across the sky. Compared to that, all our troubles seem pitiful. "Well, they may be," answered the sorcerer, regaining his usual manner. "But there are a few people upon your home world who may feel different, watching Mermandamus's army pouring down into the kingdom. It may be a small planet, but it is the only one they have." Without knowing how, Pug felt them moving forward through time. "We're free from the trap," confirmed Macros. Pug sat in silent wonder. He had felt something spring into being when he had witnessed the being. He had felt something spring into being when he had witnessed the beginning. Now he gave voice to certainty, looking at Macros. He said, "I am like you." Macros nodded, an expression of warm affection upon his face. "Yes, Pug, you are like me. I don't know what fate awaits you, but you are not like others. You are neither a lesser nor greater path. You are a sorcerer, one who knows there are no paths, only magic, and magic may be limited only by the limits of one's gifts." Tomas said, "Can you see our future?" Pug said, "No, I'm spared that." Macros said, "See, it's not an entirely unlucky thing, being a power. Compared to others, a minor power, but still one to be reckoned with. Now we must escape." He scanned the madness above as the stuff of creation shot outwards, filling the heavens with a staggering beauty, green and blue swirls of gases, red orbs and fiery splendor. White and yellow streaks of light sped by, obliterating the grey of the space, pushing back the boundaries of nothingness. Then Macros suddenly pointed. "There!" Following his hands, they saw what appeared to be a tiny ribbon, stretching away from them, some vast distance off in the heavens. "That is where we must go. And quickly, hurry, mount to the earth. She will take us. Hurry!" She was weakened by the meager food. She was equal to the task. She took to the skies. Oh, hurry. Okay. They mounted upon the dragon's back, and while she was weakened from the meager food, she was equal to the task. She took to the skies, and they were suddenly speeding through the grey rift space. Then they again entered normal space, and hung over a narrow strip of matter. Macros ordered the dragon to hover and Tomas to lower them to the pathway. They stood upon the yellow-white roadway marked by shimmering silver rectangles every 50 feet or so. Pug looked at the 20-foot wide strip and said, "Macros, we may stand here, but there's the problem of Riath." The sorcerer looked up and spoke rapidly. "Riath, there's little time. The hidden law. You may either reveal it or trust Pug and Tomas, or perish to hide your race's secret. I argue for trust. You must decide, but quickly." The dragon's great ruby eyes narrowed as she regarded the sorcerer while she hovered.
"Was, then, my father so giving to thee? What the forbidden knowledge was shared with a human?"
"I know all. for I was one he counted as friend. The dragon's eyes focused on Tomas and Pug.
From thee and thy companion Valheru, an oath never to reveal that which you are about to witness.
Tomas said.
On my life.
Pug said, I swear. A golden shivering encompassed the dragon, faint at first, then growing more pronounced. Soon it was painful to look at. The light grew more intense until it obscured all the details of Riyadh's form. Then the outlines began to move, to melt and flow, and contract down as she descended to the roadway. Rapidly, the outlines grew smaller and smaller until they were man-sized. The glow faded. Where the dragon had been, there was now a stunning woman with gold-red hair and blue eyes. Her figure was perfection, and she stood before them, unclothed. Pug said, A shapeshifter! Rieth came forward to them. Her voice was musical.
It is not known to men that we may come and go in their society at will. And only greater dragons have the art. That is why thy people count our kind diminished. For we know it is better to look like this when confronting men.
Captain Carlson, hello! And Ricardo, welcome in, good to see you. Not terribly dissimilar, Captain. Oh. Levy DeBow, hello, welcome in over on the YouTube portal. Sorry for those of you that I'm missing while my head is down. I swear I'm not ignoring you. Alright, where was I? Tomas said, Well, I can't appreciate such a beauty. She'll cause a stir when we return home unless we find her some clothing. Riath raised a lovely white arm and suddenly was attired in yellow and gold travelling gown.
I may accoutre myself as I wish, Valheru. My arts are far mightier than thou suspectest.
This is true, agreed Makros. When I lived with Rao, he taught me magics unknown to any other than mortal race. Never underestimate the scope of Ria's skills. She has more than fang and flame and talent to meet opposition. Pug regarded the lovely woman, found it difficult to believe that moments ago she had bulked larger than the rooftops of buildings. He looked hard at Makros.
Gathis once said you were always complaining about so much to learn, so little time to learn it. I think I'm beginning to understand.
Makros smiled. Then you're truly beginning your education, Pug. Makros glanced about them, an almost triumphant expression on his face, a fiery spark in his eyes. Pug said,
What is it?
We were trapped, and we had no hope of victory. We still face the possibility of failure, Pug. But now, at least, we may take a hand, and we will have a small chance of victory. Come, we have a long journey ahead. The sorcerer led them down the pathway, passing the shimmering rectangles. Between the rectangles were the rapidly receding stars of creation. Slowly the grey of rift space was creeping about them.
Makros,
said Pog,
what is this place?
The strangest of all places, even compared to the city forever. It is called the Universe Hall, Star Walk, the Gateway Path, or most often, the Hall of Worlds. The majority who passed through it is simply the Hall. We have plenty of time to discuss many things as we walk. We shall return to Midkemia, but there are a few things I need to tell you first.
Such as?
Asked Tomas. Such is the true nature of the enemy.
Such is the true nature of the enemy, said Pog.
Yes, there is that, agreed Makros. I spared you, some, until the last. For if we couldn't get free of that trap, why burden you? But now we must ready ourselves for the final confrontation. So you must have the rest of the truth. Both sorcerers looked at Tomas, who said, I don't understand your meaning. Much of your past life is still hidden from you, Tomas. It is time for those veils to be lifted. He halted their walk and reached out his hand, speaking a strange word as he covered Tomas's eyes. Tomas stiffened as he felt his memories return. Here, let me see. Okay, we still have 15 more pages to go, guys. I've snoozed the ad twice so far. I'm trying to get to that 10-page mark before the ads. Yeah, I think we're at the 10-page mark now, and we have 15 more pages to go. I just don't think that we're going to be able to do it, because let's see, we are at 25 pages. So yeah, we have 15 more pages to go. I think we could probably, I don't know, guys. What do you think? I don't see another logical breaking point in here. I think we'll have to wait until next week. So that's going to give us 6 more story times. No, actually, no, we might even, because let's see, how long is withdrawal? Withdrawal is... So that is... So yeah, we would have pretty much exactly 30 pages next week as well. So if we stop here, we'll do 30 pages. We'll do 30 pages next Tuesday, and that'll get us back on track to be done by the end of the month. I think it's probably for the best. My voice is wildly worn out. So yeah, we'll stop there real quick, guys, so that we don't get interrupted. Let's go ahead and we'll run ads over on Twitch, and then we'll do a little bit of talking. Maybe we'll do some what am I thinking? Some songs. That's a good stop. I think so, Aaron. And it is getting it's 15 minutes till 9 p.m. for me, which means that for most of you we're creeping up on midnight. So I think that we can call it stops there. And we did I waffled way too much this evening. I get excited though when we have a very active patronage, when you all are like excited and involved in the conversation. I can't help but want to talk. You know, it's so good. It's near 4 p.m. for me. Oh, it's time for dinner and a nap for the old bear. I'm just teasing, brother. If this break makes sense, then use it. Yeah, I think that because what's going to come next is we're going to learn about Ashen Shagor's past, which is Tomas's Valheru spirit, and then from there, we're then gonna have them getting back into. So we're gonna go from learning about his past and learning about the nature of Myrmandamus to then facing Myrmandamus. Talking is just the ongoing narrative of our own story. That's true. That's true. So Esther, you and Bear are an hour's different then. Bear's about to be 4 o'clock and you're about to be 3 o'clock. It was fun though. One of my favorite subjects. I love talking about these various subjects. And as if you guys haven't figured it out yet, anything having to do with storytelling gets me up in a tiff. Like, I absolutely love talking about storytelling, and especially when we're talking about good stories and whatnot. Yep, Myrmandamus is the bad guy. Tavern interaction is key to the love of the tavern. I agree, Bear. I think that because we're all so interwoven and that we all talk so much, I think that's a big part of what makes the tavern magical, is the camaraderie of it. See, yeah, you're far enough south that it doesn't get too bad along the ocean. I so appreciate you reading this. Of course, Herring. I'm glad that you guys recommended it because I appreciate that. Elsie and I enjoy your exciting stories. I'm glad, Esther. I'm glad you do. I get a lot of joy out of getting to tell you guys stories. Ricardo of the Middle Finger, hello, my friend. Good to see you again. Welcome in. I hope that you are enjoying yourself. Or at the very least, not enjoying yourself. Sorry, friends, I'm reading something. Give me just a second. All right, Frost. Yeah, off to bed with you. We do have a Discord Ace. We call it the Guild because we used to be on Gilded and then they shut Gilded down because they're bastards. 71,000 likes. Thank you, Rain. I appreciate you. Let's get in here. And I'll grab a... Good night, Frost. Rest well, brother, and may you rise tomorrow ready to face the day. Take a spoonful of honey after you get off tonight, Kay, for the throat. Yeah, I'll probably do some mint tea with honey to help soothe the throat over. So what has happened with the other group in the story? So just as a quick recap, they were in the city of Amangar, which is the sort of like Scottish-inspired city. And and I guess for anyone over on TikTok who wants to join the guild as well, you can. They were holding up the fortress of Amangar, but Mermandamus managed to penetrate the walls. So Guy Dubastira, who is Arutha's uncle, blew cousin technically, but yeah, blew the entire city to hell, just destroyed the entire thing. And Mermandamus who was hoping to have another city under his control, got nothing, and they ended up killing something like 20,000 of his soldiers. They are now on the run, trying to get back to Yabon, and to essentially meet back up with Martin. And Bobby, good night. Rest well. I appreciate you for coming in. It's been good having you back. Yeah, the bastards that bought it were the bastards. That's right, Bear. That's absolutely correct. I appreciate the correction. What was the city where they... That was... not the same city. Not the same city. That was the one where they got... I can't remember the name of it. It was like... Sarah something. I can't remember. But Amangar is over the mountains. It's on the other side of the mountains from the Kingdom of the Isles. Then as they were fleeing from Mermandamus' soldiers, they found another regiment of elves that was, as for to unknown, in the forest. And it turns out that this was the third sect of elves that was thought to be long extinct and dead, and the elves almost killed them. The elves almost ended the entire story, but they didn't, and they got away, and now they are rushing to get back to warn Arutha and I mean warn gosh, what's his name? Liam. warn Liam and get everything in order. Trying to, anyways. That's the goal. So now they are in a rapid pace trying to get back and head off the troops. And the dwarves, as far as we know, the dwarves of the Iron Mountains and Martin are to warn Liam that Mermandamus and his troops are marching in. And but Martin and the dwarves are currently literally heading them off at the pass. I think I might have had a little bit too much of my own beer this afternoon. I suspect that it might have continued to ferment in the keg. Well, that's not something that you want to happen, Bear. Do you play any video games? We don't typically do so in this format, Ricardo. Typically, we just do story time. But on occasions, we do play story games. The last one that we did was we were playing through the Fallout series. Oh, but we only do that on Twitch. If it's on TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, or TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube, we only do story time. And then over on Kick and Twitch, we will play games on occasion. Well, the lady and I are putting together some stuff for giveaway during the readathon. So we'll have a bunch of fun things. I only had 4 points and I'm feeling, yeah, you might be in for it. I have some suggestions for games. Fire away, Ricardo. I don't play a whole lot of games these days. I work too much. I spend, if I'm not doing these live story times, the lady and I, we put out 34 plus storytime videos per month, and we both write books and we do client work. Running the tavern's a full-time job. Doesn't pay a full-time yet, but we do full-time job. What are your recommendations, my friend? Undertale, Library of Runia, Limbus Company. I do believe either you or somebody else was talking about Limbus Company last time, and I looked it up. It looks fascinating. Undertale I have played, and I've never heard of Library of Ruina? I am also too busy to game to Castle. Yeah, it's something that I don't have a whole lot of time for. I love games, and I love the storytelling in video games. The last game that I completed was Black Myth Wukong, which was a spectacular game. Wonderful story, wonderful cultural references. The animation was good. The overall of it was spectacular. But that was the last one that I played through completely, and that was at the beginning of last year. So it's been some time. Bear, make sure you get some water in you and a little bit of bread, maybe. break up some of that yeast you've got going on. Is a deck builder game? I do like deck builder games. I used to play Magic the Gathering. I don't anymore. I stopped really supporting Wizards of the Coast as a company, but I do like deck builder games. I can enjoy them. We're busy, yeah, and that's the lady and I too. We're usually working between like 14 and 18 hours a day, so we just don't have time. I have to head out for an evening work meeting. Have a great night, a great rest of the stream. I'll contact you on Discord. All right, Ace, have a wonderful evening yourself, my friend. May you rest well, may your meeting go well, and may you rise tomorrow ready to conquer the damn day. I'm working on it, but I have my project up right now. It's not going to be the first thing that's done, but I am actively working on it right now. I'm working most actively on Twisted Fates. Twisted Fates is the priority. After that, I'm getting the first book in the Book of Grimm done, and then alongside Twisted Fates, I'm finishing up the concept for the first Alfie book, and I'll be slowly trickling work into Creatures of Yggdrasil as I do. That one's so big that, and I want to make sure that it's accurate. That it's going to take a little bit longer than the other things that are just sort of original coming from me. And Johnny works over 60 hours per week too. Yeah, when you work that, it's hard to find time for hobbies when you do that. I loved Magic so much way back when. Stopped playing after Urza's cycle. I played. I didn't stop playing until the late 90s, early 2000s. I had a friend give me their whole collection, and I started playing then. And I loved Magic. I love the story. I love the world. I love the game. And I had stopped playing a good while back because they just. I felt like Wizards was really compromising their artistic integrity to sort of like please people who don't even play the game. And then when the Lord of the Rings set came out, I was like, all right, I'm done. I don't want to. I don't want to support this company anymore. They changed so much of the lore and of the appearance of Tolkien's characters. It's one thing if they do it with their own, but to do it with Tolkien's characters, I was just like, nah, I don't particularly care about this anymore. Rain, have a good night. It's so wonderful to have you. Thank you for being here and being such a bright light in the tavern. Always lovely to have you. Time for kitty cuddles and sleep. You sound like the wife. That's every evening she's like, all right, time for kitty cuddles and sleep. But have a good night, Rain. It's always good to see you. We'll see you back again on Thursday. Been playing Lego Star Wars since Storytime last Thursday. I've completed The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Now I'm on to The Phantom Menace. Hell yeah. Also the cookbook. You know what I mean by that? Yeah, I know what you mean. I have that working as well. The cookbook is something that I have to wait until we can get pictures of everything. But that one will be dependent on how quickly we can cook up everything in it. But I already have that done. Like I already have all of the recipes. I just don't have the book. I've seen all of the Lord of the Rings films and Rebel Moon. They are both excellent. I don't know what Rebel Moon is, but of course I've seen all the Lord of the Rings films. Yeah, Library at Rudia is a prequel of Lobotomy Corporation. So you were the one who was telling me about this last time, weren't you, Ricardo? Same creators as Limbus Company. I have Limbus Company now on my wish list on Steam. It is interesting. It's interesting. Uh, all right, friends. I do think my voice is a little bit too worn out to sing tonight. So what do you say we find a friend and go and share some love? What do you say to that? Rebel Moon is a 2023 American epic space opera film directed by Zack Snyder, from screenplay co-written by Kurt Johnstad and Shay Hatten. Interesting. Ooh, Discord application is pending, so we get so many bots who try to join in, Mel, that I have to make sure that the people who come in are not bots. Oh, Falcord is on. We'll go and drop in on Falcord. Why not? Looks like she just started up too, so we'll go drop in on her. You have. I mean, and it's one of those things. It's practically an investment, Bear. Blessings to you and your family, Castle. I'll be back in the tavern. I appreciate your videos so much. Thank you for all your hard work. And thank you for all the love and support, Erin. It is quite literally because of all of you that the tavern even exists. And it's because of all of you that this year the lady and I will get to work in the tavern full time, and we appreciate you all for that. So thank you very much. You all are wonderful, and we couldn't ask for a better set of rapscallions and scallywags and patrons to come on in here and share their lives and time with us. We love you all for it, and we appreciate you all. All right, my friends, this is where we're going to end for this evening. We're going to go, and if you're over on the Twitch portal, we're going to raid our friend Falcord. She is a lovely storyteller and an ASM artist, for whatever that means. And she's very feel good, and she's safe. She's not one of my swearing friends. She's one of my more appropriate friends. I recently got back into MTG after years of not having people I know to play with. I really love the online version of it, Tyson. I love Magic the Gathering Arena, but I'm so upset with them as a company. All right, guys, we're raiding out. Love you all. Stay bloodthirsty, my friends. We'll see you next time. And until then, have a good night. Bye bye.